And good evening to all of you joining us here again on the Marcia Week Show. What a joy for me to welcome you to this Wednesday evening, January the 8th. Believe it or not, we are already 8 days into the new year of 2025. And for those of you who may be joining us for the first time this year, let me take this opportunity to wish you all a blessed and happy 2025. And I pray God's abundant blessing upon all of you as you proceed down through this year. I pray that you'll be able to accomplish many of the things that you would have dreamed to accomplish. I trust that you would remain focused in your focus this year, in your motive and your motivation and goals. I pray, God, that you will settle into a new dimension of life, a new season of life. And I know we have some challenges ahead of us, but nevertheless, I believe that God is on our side. Our national anthem tells us this. The Lord has been the people's guide for past 300 years, and he hasn't stopped being the people's guide. And I find it interesting that the writer of the national anthem put that in that manner. The Lord has been the people's guide, not the government's, the people's guide. And that is what here on this show we promote. So let me welcome you to the people's government, to the loyal opposition, to the best place to be on Monday night, Wednesday night, Friday night, and Sunday night. If you want to be educated on matters of economics, politics, areas of pandemics or anything of that nature, anything to do with governance, actually, anything to do with politics and things to do with economics and finance and crime and this type of thing, you want to be here on this show in one of those nights. So I want to take this opportunity to welcome all of you from the loyal opposition. I see some of you have been on, according to what I'm seeing here, from 9:39 this morning. Mystic Angel, good morning to you, and a great day to you as well. I believe it is going to be a hot night tonight. Yes, and we thank you for wishing us our great health and healing of the body. And yes, we do miss Caswell. I've indicated to him anytime he wants to join me on any of the programs, he can feel more than welcome. Just come on in, Caswell. You're the general, and whenever you announce your presence, we are going to open the door, sir, and allow you to come right on in. And on behalf of the loyal opposition, if you're picking us up, Caswell, we want to wish you a happy new year, happy 2025. And it's a real joy to have all of you with us. Mystic Angel, Marcia Miller, good night to you as well. Good to have you on board with us. Taroni Hall, lovely to have you with us again tonight. We do have, these showers and things that we are having. I'm doing some research into this climate modification. And I'm looking at some videos to do with matters of climate change because I'm going to touch on that at some point in the future. Judy, welcome. Good to have you tonight as well, and to the CARICOM loyal opposition panel. Let me put it to you that way. We're going to have a great show tonight. Jacqueline, Aline, good evening, and Marcia. Great to have you with us. I know, as usual, you'll keep me on my toes with the national anthem. We are 198 at the moment. Our persons, Errol Calendar, good evening. Mildred Ben and Irwin and Nurse Hasbra. Good evening to you, sir. Well, I hope that's a sir. I don't know. Anyhow, good evening. Let me just leave it at that. Patrick Designs, good evening to you as well. Thank you for your blessings and New Year wishes on the behalf of Mr. Caswell. I believe he is, and we are certainly looking forward to him joining us in one of these sessions not too long from now. Good night to you as well, Tyrone Blackman, Wendy Ford Griffith. Good evening to you, Beverly Prescott, and all of you, Zaire Campbell. Good evening to you, Sean Yard, Sandra Watkins, Louis. I almost said Louis Tull, but that would be Lemuel Tull. Tony Paris and Marilyn Brathwaite, good evening to you, Captain. Um, I don't know. Well, Captain, let's hope that this place, Barbados, isn't really like what you're describing. Let's pray that the people can make it a really great place. And in truth and in fact, it's really, really great to have all of you. Tim T. Ward, good night to you as well. I'm up to 223, and as I always promise, as soon as I get up past the 200 mark, I want to go to the national anthem and redeem the time because we do have a number of things to cover tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, the national anthem of Barbados. Yes, we loyal sons and daughters all do hereby make it known. These fields and hills beyond recall are now our very own. We write our names on history's page with expectations great, strict guardians. I want you to hear the expression of these last couple of lines. Strict guardians of our heritage. Don't try to supplement independence. Strict guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith, not the WEF, not the World Health Organization, not the UN. The people of Barbados are the craftsmen of our faith. If there's anything going to be happening in Barbados, let it be homegrown. And now our national pledge. I pledge allegiance to my country, Barbados, and to my flag, to uphold and defend their honor, and by my living to do credit to my nation wherever I go. I thank God that I have a good memory, a good mind, and I haven't forgotten that national pledge as I saw a certain individual in the United States fumble it, but I understand I can fumble it as well. And so we have a hot program for you tonight. We're going to be looking fundamentally at the whole aspect of matters of crime. And we want to touch on a few things. I do want to touch on a few things as I start the program this evening. And you know, I with a number of things that were out there, I was kind of struggling with what I'm going to begin with. But what I'm going to start with, as you will see from the flyer, I had a number of pictures up there. Mr. Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, our Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, and of course the little part of the flyer to do with crime and violence. Now, of course, we know that up to this point in time, Mr. Rowley has has kind of stepped down, and as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, he will be stepping out of that position very shortly, and he will be, from what he has indicated, he will be staying on, I believe, into February or something of that nature. And I want to just play a couple of very quick clips here for you. Let me make sure I can get this correctly. Let me share this with you, and you let me know if you're hearing it good and loud and clear.
But certainly earlier rather than later. And then that having been said, and my intention being firm, the question now was the replacement as Prime Minister. As you would know, once a vacancy arises with respect to the appointment of a Prime Minister, it falls to the President to respond to that by making an appointment of the person who, in the President's view, commands the majority in the House. And those provisions exist in Section 76 of the Constitution. So we, as a caucus of the PNM in the House, we discussed at length, and we, in the end, came up with a situation where the entire PNM caucus is in support of Member of Parliament Stuart Young, Member of Parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Dan's East, St. Dan's West, St. Dan's, Port of Spain North, St. Dan's West. And we are very pleased to announce that the promise of a smooth transition is going according to plan.
There you have it from the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. He's made the announcement that he will be stepping down as the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and that Mr. Stuart will be taking over. Stuart Young, I think he said, if I got the name correctly, he will be stepping into the position as appointed by the President in Trinidad and Tobago. But that is not the only resignation we had over the past few days. There's another one that we had. So we have Prime Minister Keith Rowley, but we also had another one that occurred in Canada. And I want you to watch an Instagram clip that I managed to get with regards to this individual's resignation. And I smiled when I watched it, because this individual was the one who literally imprisoned the people of Canada and disenfranchise them financially and economically. This I call, well, don't let me call him anything, because I don't want to have to face an international defamation lawsuit. But some would call him a person who should be behind bars. That's what some people would do. But I want you to just watch this reaction. I wonder what it would be in some other circles.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister.
Now, that was the Prime Minister of Canada announcing his resignation. That was him announcing his resignation, and the people just cheering and, are so happy to have got rid of him. And, we had our own Prime Minister walking hand in hand with him throughout the pandemic, locking down and imprisoning Barbadian citizens, over 5,000, I believe it was, who were disenfranchised from voting in 2022 because of the lockdowns and the prohibitions that occurred. Mind you, at the same time, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, during the same pandemic, mind you, made it possible for the people who were quarantined to vote. But over 5,000 people in Barbados were disenfranchised, were not allowed to leave their areas, their residences, no provisions made for them to vote. And you and I know that in some of the constituencies in Barbados, such as St. Peter, which happened some years ago, one vote could have made the difference. We know this. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of a government to call it, but certainly not a legitimate government on the basis of the people of Barbados, all the people of Barbados being entitled to vote. But I will leave that as it is. We have been talking here, and some people have spoken to me and asked me, why are we criticizing the government? We're criticizing the government because we're the loyal opposition. And tonight you're going to hear some solutions being suggested and recommended with respect to crime and gang violence and so on in the country. You're going to be able to hear some of these things during the session tonight. And God willing, we will be able to have all of our guests on. Trust none of them are having a problem getting into the system, getting on. And certainly if they are, I hope I will hear from them, and that I will be able to make sure. And I'm going to try as well to share with you just a couple of clippets from Marcia. Of course, I'm on tonight, which is not normally the case, but I am on because Marcia is off. I'll tell you a little secret. I understand Dave planned this for her. That is Dave Weeks, her husband, who, of course, is the behind-the-scenes individual here on the show. He planned it for her, and she was really not aware of it. So he has surprised her, taken her for a break, a much-needed break. She will be back with us in the not-too-distant future. But I have the responsibility for the Monday nights, the Wednesday nights. The young people are going to take responsibility for the Friday nights, and Mr. Glenn Murray, and I will have to refer to as the Honorable Maxine McLean to make sure she maintains that position, just like a president or any of the other people in the United States would hold theirs. They handle the Sunday night, and I have the honor of holding down the fort on Monday and Wednesday night. So we're looking forward to a great night tonight. All right. Now, I also received some information. I could not believe it, really. I've been pretty busy. And so someone sent me this information to do with what I cannot call anything less than a total embarrassment for any administration. And it had to do with the CXC exams that I understand were held yesterday morning. And the embarrassing thing was that they did not have enough tables. Now, listen, I have set up all kinds of things. I've set up crusades in the National Stadium in Suriname and in St. Vincent, and I've helped to set up in Guyana for thousands of people. I have helped set up meetings for the full gospel, businessmen with governments and political leaders around the world. And I have never had anything like this happen to me. Could you believe? And you're reading it. Yes, you're reading it correctly from the Nation newspaper that yesterday morning, the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate Exams, Mathematics, CSEC exam of mathematics at the gymnasium was delayed from the scheduled 9 o'clock start and was pushed back to 11 o'clock. Why? Because they didn't have enough tables for the students. They had 256 chairs and about 100 tables. And then they had to try and find tables and get tables. So all the exams got put back. There were people who had been up since as early as 5 o'clock. People who had been at the gymnasium from 7 o'clock in anticipation of a 9 o'clock start. Could you believe this is the Ministry of Education? And that we have spoken here on more than one occasion to call for the firing of the Minister of Education through several debacles, the Springer Memorial one, the one to do with United, I think it was, who was it in the United something, a bank, some bank that we had, who brought some questionnaires into the primary school environment. All of this going on, and now we have an education ministry that can't even get tables set up properly for an exam. This is a total embarrassment. And to be honest with you, with all of these things coming down through the pipeline, all of last year, then to start 2025 with this tells me that people at the leadership end of the Ministry of Education should be fired. Fired. Excuse me, I have been present. I've had to set up events. When I was working with BMW, I had to set up an event with the BMW people and the government and the business people and everything when we did our launch on September of 1997 at the Lloyd Erskine Sanford Center with the introduction of BMW. I had to set that up, and we didn't have a shortage of chairs. We didn't have a shortage of anything. We didn't have a shortage of models, cars, nothing. And that is little old me. And we are talking about a government department that is supposed to be one of exceptional efficiency. Why do I say that? Because there are the leaders of the educational system of the country who ought to be teaching the young people and the students how to deal with matters of life, how to educate themselves, provide for themselves. Imagine that. And then to talk about a lack of communication in the day and age when you have these things, smartphones, phones that can operate WhatsApp, Signal, all kinds of technological accessibility, and you mess up the start of an exam. That is an embarrassment. An embarrassment. And the Nation carried it, the Nation newspaper carried it, which is read all over the world. I would resign if I was in that position. But then again, we've had the resignation of Mr. Rowley, the resignation of Justin Trudeau. I don't know who's going to be the next. I'm not saying anybody's going to be next, but I don't know, because it seems that there is something being set up. I don't know. Seems something being set up. Something being set up. Come on, folk. We can do better than this. My God, man. We're supposed to have intelligent people sitting in our parliament and leading our ministries of government. And you're going to tell me something like this happened? And don't tell me. And I hear you, M. Gardner, about very poor planning. I don't even know if that is an apt description. I was a part of the Singing Christmas Tree at the People's Cathedral for 2024, 2025. And that place was so organized. Everything was like clockwork. Nobody came and couldn't get a seat. Everything ran like clockwork. And there's a little church. We're talking about big government, folk. Come on. Anyhow, I can leave that there for now. And I'm going to move on very quickly as I prepare to receive some of my guests that hopefully are going to be coming in to join me very, very shortly. Of course, we are dealing with a number of things in the country. We are not only dealing with challenges economically, we are dealing with things to do with crime and violence, with gang violence. And I have said here in this environment that I am beginning to believe that there is a regional move for what Mr. Murray, Glenn Murray, has said to me on more than one occasion. I believe he may have said it here on the program. He's talking about how criminal activity is organized. So I don't know if you're seeing what's happening around the world. Of course, we've seen several attacks. What they have been referenced as terrorist attacks in the United States. We've seen a number of things happening there. We've seen an attempted bombing, gentleman driving a car through a crowd. We've seen a number of shootings, and these are the things that we're witnessing now here in Barbados. We're experiencing an uptick. We had two issues. One with Kentucky, with Kentucky Fried Chicken staff being attacked, and I think there was another one in the Pine with the people lamenting in the Pine, someone lamenting concerning the crisis in the Pine, and how psychologically children would have been impacted and affected. They were talking. She was talking about the impact, of somebody driving through and shooting and releasing bullets and people scampering for cover. These are things. Believe it or not, this is happening right here in Barbados. Then there was a reported shooting that was the one Golden Rock Play Park in the Pine St. Michael, where two men and a boy had been injured in that incident. And at the time of the shooting, children were playing in the park. And of course, the police responded to that situation. Now, you have to ask yourself, where are all of these guns coming from? How are they getting into the country? How is it possible for these things to be entering, unnoticed, and all these kind of things that are happening? And we, as a country, we have to ask questions. We have to ask questions. Of course, you know that from the information that we've received, we had the launch of the regathering at St. Lucy's Parish Church, which we saw yesterday. Well, not yesterday, Monday. We saw Rose addressing that matter. And you are left to ask yourself the question, I'm concerned about it. And I'm going to tell you why I'm concerned about it. Because if this level of crime and violence goes on, it's not going to be long before you're going to have a travel advisory release concerning tourists coming to Barbados. And of course, tourism is the only, I'm almost tempted to say, certainly the number one foreign exchange earner for the country. And, at this particular point in time, we are not in a state of emergency. Trinidad is in a state of emergency, and hopefully later on tonight, someone will be joining us to talk some more about the matter of the state of emergency there, the whole aspect of the Prime Minister resigning, and the matter of crime and violence in Trinidad and Tobago. But you're talking about we gathering, and you're expecting, look, all right, let me finish my statement. You're expecting people to come home to a country where there has been an uptick in violence, an uptick in criminal activity and shootings. And people are not going to be coming into that environment. And even if they do, they certainly are not going to be going in a lot of places that normally, I guess, they would be going. Now, give you grant, it's not, I don't expect it's the whole island that is in this state of affairs. But yes, Marcia, I believe we should be asking our Attorney General some questions. I believe we should be. You see, these people need to have their feet held to the fire. And that is what this show is about. It's about holding the government's feet to the fire. They have to be held accountable. They campaigned, and I have not forgotten it, two slogans: transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability. And I will not let them forget that. That is what you campaigned on, because you criticized the last administration for not being transparent and not being held accountable. And as I've said here before, I am not interested in hearing anything about any party or government that went before. I don't want to hear anything about Frandl Stewart. I don't want to hear anything about Erskine Sandiford or Owen Arthur at this point in time. This is where Barbados is right now. And we have to look and see who are the best persons to put at the helm of guiding this country through this year. And we understand that there is a probability that there is going to be a general election in Barbados this year. And I read an alleged information that was sent to me. I read here on Monday concerning, and I said it's alleged. I don't want nobody to hold me for defaming anybody's character, but it was said, and it is being said, that the former Minister of Finance under the Democratic Labour Party administration, Mr. Chris Clear, is going to be managing the election mechanism for the Barbados Labour Party. And I understand from that information sent to me that allegedly a number of persons, including allegedly Minister of Health and a number of other internal entities, are not pleased with it at all. Now, you have the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago stepping down. You have the Prime Minister of Canada stepping down because he said the internal conflict. He could not handle the internal conflict. That is what he said. He's stepping down so that somebody else will be able to guide the country. And I'll tell you the truth. I know that people definitely have to hold persons to account. We have to hold them to account. Now, I want to take a quick peek through some of these comments that you're making, because I believe that you should be seeing, and your comments should be heard. The Cost of Fields is saying that people don't be surprised. People only interested in winning elections. Somebody says that it's all about money. This is serious time. This is Taroni Hall. This is serious time. So people getting more serious. So these are dark days. Somebody else says what? Resigned? These people are about their salaries. You know, and I'm sharing some of your comments. I want to share some of your comments. Marcia is asking, shouldn't we be asking our Attorney General that question in terms of, you know, I guess to do with let me look back here. Only criminals take what's not theirs. Yes. Good night. Let me see what the cost is saying here. A pleasant good night. Loyal opposition. Yes. That was the one winning elections. Absolutely correct. Good to see you, Sir Alfred Benjamin. Great to have you back in. I missed you for a few of the shows that I've been on, and a happy new year to you, sir. Trevor Stewart said the country needs prayer. Jacqueline is saying they're crippling the country. You're right. I mean, when you hear things of this nature happening, you are aware of the fact that persons are going to be hesitant to come back into a country of this nature with things happening like this. Jacqueline says people have to be held accountable. No one is above the law. Jacqueline, I must tell you the truth. I wish to sometimes I was one of two things, or both, the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Barbados. I would lock people up. I would lock them up. Wickedness, man. A lot of things going on that is nothing but downright wickedness. And a lack of transparency. Don't want to give the people who employ you, who pay your salary, an account. Right? And I don't know, Jacqueline. I'd love to see B's and D's working together. But you would observe that even in the United States, we are actually seeing some bipartisanship in Congress and Senate, because they passed a bill, I believe it was today or yesterday, with which 60-something Democrats voted with the Republicans for a bill regarding that young lady that was killed by an illegal immigrant. Away with this foolishness of undocumented people. There is a way to enter a country. It's called the port of entry. Barbados has 2 points of entry, Grantley Adams Airport and the Bridgetown Port. If you try to get in on any other area, you are an illegal immigrant. You are trying to get into Barbados illegally. But we have these insane Democrats in America who want to legitimize illegal entry to the country. Insane people. And they're doing it simply for votes and to stay in power, so that they can, what was the word that they use again? They can shore up certain districts and with people. You know, these things are illegal, and people who support that should be imprisoned. And I make no apologies for it. They should go to prison. Every one of them should go to prison. And if that ever comes to Barbados, I can tell you, I don't care which government it is, DLP, BLP, LLP, QPT, I don't care what it is. If it ever comes to Barbados, all of us should rise up in arms and protest in a massive march in Bridgetown to put it to an end. And these are the things that we are not going to be prepared to accept in our country, not one iota. We are not going to be prepared to accept it at all in Barbados. We want to see a legitimate accessibility to Barbados. If there are points of entry in the United States of America, a whole ton of them. You got Miami, New York, Atlanta, all through Texas. They're legitimate border crossings. And if you want to come into the country, if you are running because of crime and violence in your country or because of wars or something, they're legitimate access points to the country. If you come in using any other means, you are not a undocumented individual. You are an illegal immigrant. That is what you are. Okay, so I want to make those things very, very clear from my perspective, from my point of view. 4 ports of entry, you're saying, erase the hypocrites, Grant Lee Adams, Port Authority, Port St. Charles, and Port Ferdinand. Well, I guess so. I don't know. Erase the hypocrites. If somebody would have to inform me if they are immigration and customs points at Port St. Charles and Port Ferdinand. I must confess that I don't know. And if they are, please educate me. Education on this forum goes both ways. You educate us, we educate you. So if it is, let's make sure that we know the truth, right? Here we are not sharing. I'm telling you this, there are a number of things that people share. They talk about, and I see it there, Donnie, about misinformation. I tell the truth. Everybody on this program tries to tell the truth. We research. I have heard persons say some things. Up to today, I was listening to a clip concerning weather modification within the area of Barbados. And while I listened and I understood what was being said, I want to see evidence. I want to see facts. I want to see documented support. And we come here. I was just talking about the matter to do with the education and the common entrance exam. I showed you a article in the Nation newspaper, one of our media houses, and Jacqueline Allen, you're right. The average person would be removed from their position if they weren't doing their job. Why is it different for the BLP ministers? Move the person or persons unless they are holding something over your head and you can't touch them. I don't know. I said unless that is the case. All right. So these are things that we must engage. We have to engage. Sometimes, look, throughout the pandemic, you all will recall, you heard me. You can go on YouTube and you can find things to do with interviews I had there with different persons. We've shared it here on this platform. We have shared things that were the truth, and people told us it was misinformation. I sent information to I don't know if he got it, the chief medical officer. I sent it to the president of the Barbados Medical Association. They tell me they're getting their information from the World Health Organization. Well, that is one of the most criminal organizations on the planet. You getting your information from an organized crime syndicate called the World Health Organization, walking in tandem with the United Nations and the World Economic Forum, who are trying to depopulate the world with a specific focus on Black people in Africa. Why don't they go and test their drugs in Europe, up in Spain and Portugal and Italy and the United Kingdom and in the United States? I know for a fact, and I can pull the evidence if I have to, where drugs that were not passed for use in the United States of America were sent to the Philippines. And as a result of that, children galore suffered in the Philippines. as a result of the drugs that they sent there. And these are the things that we are hearing. And here in Barbados, we are experiencing those things too. People said that we were a test area for the pandemic treatment from India. That's what they told us, that we were guinea pigs. And the CDC and the CDC and the other one up there, the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, those people don't go and test nothing. They only go and look at facilities. If you doubt me, you go Google and see what they do. You can do that for yourself. The FDA don't take any drugs that are developed in the United States of America and test them and put them through their own scientific research to find out if what Pfizer or Moderna or Johnson and Johnson's or anybody else is saying is true. And look at what has happened. Now that we have got past the pandemic, we are now finding out that every single thing we said was true. Not one thing was false. They told us when we started that if you took the treatment, it would protect you. It didn't. They told you if you took the treatment, it would keep you in the hospital. It didn't. They told you if you mask up, you wouldn't contract it. It didn't. And we had the evidence to show. And even my good friend, Dr. Campbell, on YouTube, I'm sure you know Dr. Campbell, who started out, mind you, being a full supporter of vaccinations. Big full supporter. And the gentleman came to the point where he realized, you know what? This thing ain't right. This thing ain't right. He pulled in people from Africa, pulled in people from all around the world. And he's up to now, not today, up to now, he is showing that accidental deaths or side effect deaths and whatnot are in the millions now, with people dying. And so when we come on these platforms, on this platform, we come sharing the truth. We came sharing that. We told people vitamin D. We told them vitamin D. We told them zinc. We told them vitamin C. We told them to do a strong thing. But we are not doctors, so they deplatform us. But the doctors were saying that. Then the ivermectin, you remember the thing with ivermectin? The whole thing with ivermectin, with them telling us that ivermectin was horse medicine. That was a blatant lie. Ivermectin was first developed for human beings, and the people who deal in the realm of animals and agriculture discovered that it worked with the horses at a stronger dosage. But it was really a parasitic drug that was developed for people, and it was working. But no. They tell us, you tried to put anything up to that to do with that, and we were deplatformed. That is why I take the approach to the cybercrime bill so seriously. I sat in the Organization of American States, the OAS building in Washington, D.C., and I presented on the behalf of the citizens of Barbados, along with 3 other persons, 2 young men and a young lady. We presented our position in opposing the cybercrime bill, because the cybercrime bill is a bill intended for government to control information in this country, to control what you can access, what you can share, what you can promote. The United States of America has rejected it. Canada was under the dictatorial dictates of Justin Trudeau. You're going to see a lot of things change. A lot of things change with his demise in Canada. And you know, things that we were told, you know, were misinformation. That is why they're pushing this bill. They're trying to control the narrative. They're trying to control freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and to make sure that, and a young man, I wish I could find the clip. I wish I could find the clip on it. Young man stood in a Christchurch Barbados Labour Party constituency meeting and said it clear. We have to protect our ministers. Why does a minister need protection? All a minister has to do to be protected is to do his job legitimately and correctly and rightfully as the minister, not for financial benefit, but for the benefit of the people of this country. I observed some information. I have to get back to reading in detail to do with the recent town meeting they had at the Frank Cullimer Hall to do with the new Republic Constitution and some things that were expressed, and to do with the role of the president and the prime minister having too much power. And I agree. We need to reduce the power the prime minister has. The prime minister should not be appointing judges, magistrates, nothing. She shouldn't be appointing judges, especially because I see I don't know who's recommended them, but I see the president recently installed three new magistrates, three new judges, I believe. But the prime minister should not be the person who recommended that. And even if you recommend it, I like the United States system. I am being very honest with you. Some of you will agree with you, some of you will not agree with me. And that is your democratic right. That is what democracy is about. It is about you having the right to express your opinion and I having the right to express my opinion. And maybe where our minds will meet, we can coordinate and we can collaborate and cooperate together. And where they don't, we just agree to disagree. That's democracy. But what we have today is a cancel culture. If you don't agree with me, I will cancel you. That is the thing that we are hearing today. And so I am in the position of, I like the system in the United States where even now members of the cabinet have to come before a committee to justify their selection to hold the office of a minister of government in the United States of America. And those are the kind of things I would like to see introduced in our constitution in this country. Number one, you can't change the election date. It's fixed. No prime minister has the right to call an election when they feel like. That needs to stop. That's one of the things I want to see happen. Number two, I want to see provision made that when a government is not performing in the interest of the people have a resort position where they can acquire a certain number of signatures and require the president to call an election. I don't know how it could be done. You all are smarter than I am. Maybe you can tell me how to do it. I don't know. I don't believe that the prime minister has the right or responsibility of being able to determine things at her whim and fancy. I believe that when there are significant changes to occur within the context of legislation that is going to significantly affect Barbadian citizens and their way of life, that there should be consultation with the people. You know what you're going to be doing or what you're looking at doing. Come and talk with the people. See how the people feel about it, not just the opposition in terms of parliament, the people. And I am looking forward to a day when a constituency meeting will be held with both members of both the opposition and the government present, with supporters of both parties present, acting in an adult and mature manner, where the people are going to hold everybody's feet to the fire and ask them to give an account for their function and their activity. I'm looking forward to the change of those days. Now, this evening, as I told you, we are looking to deal with the matters of crime and crime and activity in Barbados. And I've been holding for a couple of persons to join me. I haven't seen one or two of them join me as yet, but I have seen one of my special guests come into the back room, and they're going to be looking to bring them in very shortly. But before I do that, I want to share a little video clip with you. Yes, sir, absolutely. I agree with you. We'll come back to that. I want to share a little video clip with you that came into my possession, and I'm not going to tell you how, but when I listened to it, I couldn't help but to endorse the sentiments of the video. It may not be easy for everybody to engage and accept, but I found it a telling video, something that should, let me see if I can just locate it. Is it this one? Just let me
And I want
quickly
to
see,
talk
otherwise I'll
to
have to
you
hide
all
it.
in
And
here today as comrades.
there's one I put here in my storage. You see, this is monkey handling gun at the moment, because Dave not here with me. Okay, I think it's this one. So bear with me. All right. I'm going to share this video with you, and right after that, I'm going to introduce our first guest who is in the room with me.
My son was a good boy, words of a mother. As he's laying down on the asphalt, bleeding out on the corner, she's calling on Jesus' name, asking why did they kill him. My son was a gentle soul, he never do nobody nothing. Then a man shout, woman. The son went on a banging in a stolen vehicle. Why you feel the next team swing back? The boy killed 3 people. Speeding off at the scene he went on. A little girl get bounced down, yet still she saying heads have to roll for the ones who take she's control. Mama good son, no get gunned down. Yeah. Mama good son, no get gunned down. I know she crying out for justice, for she son who was a killer, justice. A little notorious gangster, justice. This boy was killing people. They used to call him Dr. Evil, justice. For the real headbanger, justice. For the #1 shutter, justice. They say when he ride he never stick. They used to call him literally John Wick. Mama good son, no get gunned down. Yeah. Mama good son, no get gunned down. Hey, as she holds her son lifeless body, crying out in pain. I hear a lady in the background shouting, woman, you ain't have no shame. Like the same boy we used to cuss you, treat you like a dog and hit you. Now you're here with tears in your eye, crying for this ungrateful child. He was oppressing the community. He used to advantage everybody. He used to glad when mountain come. Why? He want to tax all people the money. He beat up the child mother, shoot behind the big brother. The way you're feeling, now you know how much other people he may feel. So mama good son, no get gunned down. Hey, mama good son, no get gunned down. I know she crying out for justice, for the community terrorists, #1 extortionist. And if nobody in, pay him no tax, he kidnap the family and burn down their business. For somebody so evil, oh you said distress people, but all you seeing is the hole in the face, not the loaded Beretta anyways. And mama good son, mama good son, mama good son, no get gunned down. Yeah. He had a mind full of bitterness, he had a heart full of hate. But now you crying out your liver string, like this boy was a saint. We do expect you to smile and be happy, after all you is your mother. But how much other mother sons your son buried, now you're seeing where he's karma. You never used to show no concern when they tell you the boy out of control. You even act like you never know the last child mother is 14 years old. When everybody complaining, you say they envy and jealous him. You didn't want to talk to him since he's small. No, nobody don't want to hear you was your ball. Mama good son, no get gunned down. Hey, mama good son, no get gunned down. I know she crying out for justice to the people on the corner. All over social media. You see the man and them who kill your son. You wish the police could gun all of them down. Justice for a real pedophile who victimize people, little girl child. So don't vex, now you're trying to mourn, and everybody happy that the big pest gone. Mama, good son. Mama, good son. Mama, good son. No, you're gone down. Hey. My son was a good boy. The words of a mother.
Well, I tell you, I think that song says it all. We have a major responsibility as parents, major responsibility. You know, the song I know focuses on a mother, because very often it is the mothers that you hear crying and wailing concerning the death of their sons, and when their sons are arrested and imprisoned, or are going to be put away for life, or even death penalty. You know, you hear these things. Well, let me welcome my first guest this evening, Abraham Millington. Mr. Abraham, great to have you with us. I don't know if your internet is stuck, but you are stuck, sir, at the moment. I don't know if you want to try going back out and coming back in. I'm not hearing you if you're speaking. So we're going to ask you to try again and come back in and see if we can have you sharing with us tonight. While Mr. Millington is doing that, I want to share with you a couple of clips from Marcia. She sent a few clips in. I have no idea what they're going to be.
It is called the presidential bust. So when you want to talk about the arms of government, you particularly the executive arm of government, and you talk about those terminologies of impeachment, assassination, public participation, and those abduction things, whatever you know. You cannot talk, you just talk at this bust to the political science students. We don't take them in agriculture corner, you will be wrong. So he ruled until 1978. But before that, because Kenya is a colony of the British, he went through a lot of atrocities. He was arrested, jailed, and from the prison, he became, first of all, he became a prime minister.
Wow, from prison?
Yes, in 1963. And that is what holiday we celebrate as Madaraka Day. Kenya got self-governance. But the British were still here, but they refused to go. And then now, because of pressure, Kenya got independence in 1963, 12th of December, what we call Jamhuri Day.
12th December?
12th of December, 1963. Just a span of 6 months.
Yeah.
He never stayed as a prime minister for a long time. But they entered the same time with Patrice Lumumba, who was killed by the other side in Congo. Yes, so he died in 1978, and then his predecessor took over. That is President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, who also just come after that. Who also for 24 years.
24 years?
Yes, and because that gentleman died in the seat, if it is not dead, he could have still been there, president up to date. So that is also a natural thing that help people to eliminate. Are we together? Then when Moi took over, because the constitution says is the one to be taking over. As per the constitution, it's the vice president shall take.
Well, there you have some of Marcia's activities in Africa. As we go into this session, Abraham, welcome. You were stuck a few minutes ago, so I just went off to do a little clip with Marcia, giving you a chance to come back in. But let me welcome you to the Marcia Week Show, and let me wish you, on behalf of all of the panelists, a happy New Year, happy 2025, and a pleasure to have you joining us this evening.
Thanks, Dr. Ferdinand. It's a pleasure to see you and hear you. Always being relevant. Always being relevant.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes. Now I know that you're going to be navigating us through. I understand from from what Marcia shared with me, that you were a past law enforcement officer. Let me put it that politically correct way. Years ago we used to call it policeman, but, these days law enforcement officer. And she said that you would be giving us some insight into crime. And so we're looking forward to what you're going to be sharing with us tonight.
Sure. My if you can put the slide up, but my overview really is just a snippet overview of what's happening there on the ground. And I'm going to use one case study who lots of people in Barbados would know, probably over the ages of 40 and above may know of this. It's a case study with Waggy and Long Clark. But if you can put the slide, I'll navigate you from there.
Right. Now, let me be sure this is the slide, right?
Yes, it is. You can
Right.
enlarge
Okay,
it if you
great.
please. Right.
Yes,
So,
let me see how I do that. Like, remember, Dave is not here, so you have a
oh,
monkey handling gun. All right. So let me see how I
you hit the plus
how
that
to
plus part of it right. You can hit
i-
it again.
i-
Right. That's enough.
is
Right.
that good there?
One less is good. I guess. Well, yeah, that's fine because you can see it when you go up.
Okay, no
Right.
problem.
Right.
Okay. Ah,
So the headline is just Barbados through different lenses as it relates to crime on the ground. And I'm saying seniors, middle age, and youth perspectives, and I'm doing that purposely. And as I go through domestic crimes, the year has opened in Barbados, and without being specific to the case because it's very sensitive, we've had, we've lost, we've
yes.
lost, we had a loss, and there's been besides that situation, we are talking about domestic crimes in Barbados and how they escalate. And in my opinion, I feel, based on what I've been hearing, former magistrate Faith Marshall Harris, and her name is Dr. I think she's Hines Myrie, lament on as it relates to domestic crime, and I'm talking about both genders, male and female. I think that we need to really ask if there's the community helps to ask, how comfortable are we on the ground with expressing our discomforts in the community with not only law enforcement but engaging in the courts. And I will go straight on to the case study. And this is dealing with how in Barbados you can see on the ground, both in the Ministry of Education as well as on the side of the opposition, where Ms. Dujon has her, as the saying goes, her work cut out, trying to mediate between lots of school upheavals and stuff. So we're going straight on to school violence, and you might want to know how this correlates with village unrest, but the two are the two are technically interchangeable. And here we go. This is just a short case study because I don't have much time to spend with you today. So you have Sylvan Woggy Clark and Warren Clark. There were two brothers who were well-known brothers and most wanted people at the time, from the Fitz Village, St. James area. As young children, they took their violence from in the home into the community, right into Good Shepherd Primary School. This is in St. James. The two brothers were known to disrupt community events. In other words, they would show up at events, and their presence were there, including
Mhm,
football
mhm.
tournaments. The example of, there was times where the police football used to play Fitz Village Wizards.
All
And
right, yeah.
imagine, I guess you're laughing because these these matches.
No,
Imagine,
they would. I would expect that the Fist Village Wizards won everything because they're wizards.
you're right, but anyway, they were very good though.
Yeah.
Imagine these young men in the 80s would show up at football matches with swords. Can you believe this? So
Wow.
this
Wow.
what we are talking about that has the word I'm trying to find, the maturation of crime and the level of crime in Barbados. We have to be real. It didn't just arrive at that. It came from somewhere. Imagine these fellows imagine these guys used to show up at football matches, with swords, and then would show up at the football matches with swords and stash or hide them in the surroundings of Good Shepherd School. And I'm fast forwarding now. These two brothers were later killed. one by the police, sorry, one by the police shootout, and the other by an unknown assailant. And that is a short summary. You had an opening, it's almost like you're doing comprehension at school or composition writing, an open, a middle, and a close. And as simple as that may seem, that is a nucleus example of how village disorder goes from the home, the school, the making the society a nuisance, inverted commas, and obviously to sometimes very much untenable ends, more or less. So as we talk about serious crimes, as we know, the year has just started, and from my intel on the ground, you're dealing with robberies and sensitive situations where the public is not feeling safe as it relates to. They had one there with KFC, as you would know, as
Yeah,
you're quite
yeah.
aware,
Hmm. And there was
and
one in the Pine as well, Gold at the
as
what?
well
The
as the
Golden.
decline.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And before I go any further on that, I think that Barbados needs not to feel that it operates in terms of its crime management in a vacuum. Hear what America constitutes as a mass shooting, because I think that when if we are a place open for business, which I think we have to understand that the definition for mass shooting, be it may be different in Barbados or America, but when people come from America into Barbados and they see what they know as a mass shooting, they're not going to define it by the verbal semantics of what Barbados defines it as. Here,
Right.
what America defines a mass shooting as: an event in which one or more individuals are actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a populated area. You hear that? In other words, you
Yep.
just if you go on, right, implicit in this definition is the shooter's use of a firearm. The FBI has not set a minimum number of casualties to qualify an event as a mass shooting, but
Hmm.
U.S. statute, the Investigative Assistance for Violent Crimes Act of 2012, defines a mass killing as 3 or more killings in a single incident. So, what we are saying in Barbados, even though it may not constitute to always killings or deaths on the scene, the fact that we have a consistency, maybe who knows, per month of incidents that people, and there is incidents reported, and there are also incidents that are not reported. And as you would know from criminological studies, sometimes the reported crimes, you can gauge what is really happening with the unreported, right? So we go on from that to white collar crime. And when I say white collar crime, what I'm talking about is not just somebody talking about money stolen from a bank and stuff. I am fast forwarding to what I'm hearing on the ground. As recent as last week, or I think, was it last week, or is this? It's either the new year or last year. I heard, um, and the reason I'm referring to the Leader of the Opposition is not necessarily only because I am trying to pitch a DLP stance, but you don't, we persons in Barbados are not going to see the government critiquing the government. So,
Correct.
it's for that reason, on that premise, that I'm mentioning his name. I heard the Leader of the Opposition speaking to monies being expected, because as you would know, you're a very learned person, that a contract could only be done with two persons engaging in the expectation of a thing, and the willingness for the other tenant to give the thing. So if the Leader of Opposition is speaking to a significant amount, I can't remember if it was 7 million or how much ever he had spoken, to be specific, but let's just say a significant amount of money promised to persons, and what if the Leader of Opposition himself and his his aides, or whoever it be, can't speak to having seen that tabled in the house? In my opinion, something like that would be on the borderline of what we call white collar crime, right? I'm not saying that it is. I'm not saying it is, but this is the aspect of what constitutes such a thing. and we have to ask sometimes if the satisfaction of our national political dissection with the Public Accounts Committee bipartisan auditing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is satisfactory. I find a lot of people in the Caribbean always point fingers at Trump and um what's her name again that was running the lady that was
Um,
running again,
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris, and we,
Yes,
oh, she should have done this, he should have done that. But what is happening in Little Barbados on the ground?
correct.
As Kamala Harris was whoever she was at the time, she couldn't just run her parliament and not have a bipartisan um, auditing of the public accounts or whatever it be. So if they can't do it and they are far bigger and mightier than we are, what about Barbados? You mean that people have to go on their knees and beg for a public accounts bipartisan auditing? So let's continue. I'm talking
Yeah,
about
but you have the Auditor General himself who has raised matters, and actually, Abraham, the government very recently, I saw an article carried, I think it was in the Barbados Today, to do with three areas of government: CBC, Barbados the Transport Board, and Hope, that
right.
were a critical risk to the economy of the country. And we've been saying this for months. For months, we have been calling for an account for the $60 million wasted at Hope. We've been calling, even recently, I think, you talk about the leader of the opposition, but the opposition is who would be critiquing the government. As you rightly say,
Correct.
the government will not critique itself. It should be able to, if you had ministers or parliamentarians who had the intestinal fortitude to do
Correct.
so, but we don't. And
Right.
you will recall Mr. Thorne raised the matter of the Prime Minister's expenditure in terms of travel, the most traveled Prime Minister in the history of this country. And we had a member of Parliament get up to defend it, talking about $186 million allocated to the Prime Minister's office. The fact of the matter is, Abraham, out of whatever, how much was spent by the government to facilitate the Prime Minister's travel, and what has that meant in return economically for Barbados?
Well, you see, these questions are very valid, and the fact that you have to ask them as a layperson, or you and I, but the very opposition leader can't get any answers to them, that says a lot.
Yes, it
Um,
does.
that says a lot. I'm going on to the
Yeah, go
frequency
ahead.
of mass shootings in Barbados, as I earlier gave a definition, because I think that we in Barbados, as we are open to business, as I believe Barbados is a place open for business for the international market, and as such, the semantics of what constitutes a mass shooting in Barbados, it doesn't matter. If persons in North America and Africa and other places understand that the mass shooting is what it is, um, Barbados calling it by a different name, potato, it's not going to matter. As the next item is I'm talking about youth access to high-powered weapons. The discussion of that, as we've gone into a new year now, is a big topic on the ground, and the fact that of the opening of the year has started with um, the shootings again, you have to ask yourself, where are these guns coming from? And I
Correct.
mean that they sound like a lame answer to thing, but it has to be asked, because you have to ask: is your border security up to par? Is it, they can come from the stocks, right? So, and the other thing that going on now is the reasons given for the gun rivalries. This sometimes you could gain such a thing by engaging culprits and stuff. But what I think on the ground, we have to ask as a community, like you see children fighting at school over money, or after gambling or whatever the case is, or doing some sort of activity that they really ought not to be doing anyhow. And you could say, okay, one felt the other was unfair, so by virtue of that, a fight ensued. But sometimes you have to ask, what are the causes for these village shootings and stuff? Is it territorial? Is it cases for the stealing of illegal drugs, or you see what I mean? Or so sometimes you have to ask why. And then the modus operandi now, as we're going on now, we are seeing that elderly, and I'm not trying to make Barbados afraid, but I think we just need to hit the reality button. When the elderly go walk in the mornings, because I'm sure that a lot of people in Barbados try to keep fit. Actually, Barbados, a lot of people don't know, but Barbados has one of the in my opinion, some of the fittest some of the fittest seniors, and you see them doing their walking and going about their business on mornings and wherever they do. So what I'm trying to say is that you want this regathering, you want to have a regathering, and people can't walk and go about their business and feel safe. What kind of regathering you going to be entertaining? And their fellow associates in crime or underground networks. I think this situation I'm talking to is the early shooting. Dr. Ferdy, was it a case where I think it was it a case of some person walking early in the morning, and it was a
I can't
shooting?
remember. I can't remember in that particular matter. But I want
Right,
to
but
ask you a question because you
sure,
did make a mention about mass shootings,
correct.
and the similarities, or potato patata.
Hmm.
Um, but in my observation of shootings in the United States, I don't see a lot of. Sorry, you may have other information different than mine, but I don't see a lot of what we would call drive-by shootings. I see a lot of people going into an environment, school or restaurant or something, and opening up. But
You're
what we
talking.
have,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. But
You
what
were
we
saying
have
that you're
happening here, what we have
sorry.
happening here in Barbados, which is why I think people talk about it being gang related. We saw it just happen with one of the prosecuting attorneys in Trinidad,
Correct.
where people just drive by and open up. I saw this happen in St. Lucia, where people were attending a wake for someone who had been killed, and fellas just drove by and opened up on
Well,
them.
right.
Would that be considered in terms of, if you are on the ground in the United States, a type of mass shooting? How would that be described?
Yeah, I'll repeat it again because maybe I
Mhm.
read it. I read too far down. I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna read the order. I'm just gonna read the opening segment. It says, as defined by the U.S. FBI, which is Federal Bureau of Investigation, an event in which one or more individuals are actively engaged in killing or attempting to kill people in a populated area. So
Okay, okay.
I can
Uh-huh.
right. You see, so sometimes
Right, right,
sometimes I have to go a little slower.
right, right,
Essentially,
right.
what you are talking constitutes the same thing, whether it's a drive-by or some person walks into an establishment or whatever the case is.
Okay.
Both
Mm.
both situations. So you
Both are
see now,
considered.
correct. You're correct,
Uh-huh. Got
right?
it, got it.
So and the next topic I'm going to talk about here or mention really because I don't have time to really go in there is I am a person that used to a lot of people didn't really understand what I was doing, but since my area in law and society was not really actively being used in the police force, even though I wouldn't go into that, but because it was music and then it was because if a person has more than one more or less gifting, it is not necessary that the law and society and that research should be used. Maybe anyway, let's continue. Where I'm going with this is that whilst in Barbados, many a time I used to just up, go to St. John, go to St. Like I did a lot of walkthroughs in parishes. And what I can tell you is that in Barbados, a lot of shops over the last 5 to 10 years started closing earlier than normal.
Hmm, hmm.
Very few shops you find, the only shops you find that open late are those who are either well like have good CTV thing, or they have what they call like the natural lookouts, where that they have people that literally lying there and stuff. And what I think that has done to Barbados is that a lot of people that would have really play a trade as it relates to shopkeeping and stuff, they have that too has. It may seem small, but you think of a person who is a family, a house that is relying on the safety of a place to play the trade and have games and dominoes and cards and whatever the case is, and for such a reason called fear,
Hmm.
a significant number, and you can go parish, you can you can try to prove me right or wrong. Go parish by parish and see amongst a lot of older folks, younger folks, whoever that used to see that had belly shops. Many of them have chosen to close a little earlier than normal as they used to be. Um, could you go back down to going on to national perspective on
Below this, There we go.
National, right,
National
that one there.
perception. This one here.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Right.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Yeah.
domestic, I don't have to really, I'm not touching that too much way because I believe that a lot of people understand that Barbados, for the simple reason of domestic crimes, in my opinion, being slated, and I'm not calling any agency to blame one or the other, but I feel that for the reason of a lot of domestic crimes being slated on the ground, people not wanting to come forward because they feel they will be laughed at and stuff, and what would be cases that these domestic crimes, or by not having confidence in the system, migrate into serious crimes. And you're seeing, and as the year up, I wouldn't go into specifics, but you're seeing a lot of hintings to that. Okay, and I'm going on to say a possible need for the creation of a small claims court to quell village crimes where small amounts of money can be retrieved and leads to violent, or I should say that leads to violent exchanges. What I'm trying to say is that in some parts of the world, obviously, I don't have to say, there's something called a small claims court. I believe something like that should be adopted in Barbados. I mean, some lawyers may feel it taking money out of the pocket, but a small claims court enables the average layman. Let's say somebody owe you $1,000 or $2,000. You ain't gonna want the average Bajanian and want to go and hire a lawyer to get back $2,000 or even $500. Or in instances where is a landlord and tenant issue. But the construction of a small claims court allows the persons to bring their cases to government, and the cases are tried, and they don't have to worry about like the overhead costs and that sort of stuff. So I think that the introduction of something like that, I believe, can assist in the reduction of a lot of tension on the ground, because you find that somebody owing another person money and not getting it back, they try to take matters in their own hands. Let's go up. This is my last. And I said hope would benefit family, right? And how do we go with this now? Music and culture, tenets of organized crime influencers in the Caribbean. And I said that organized crime and the entertainment industry in the Caribbean, the intersectionality of tourism, gang culture, and political influences in the Caribbean. Now, where I'm going with this is that, without being specific or to call names, I think that the Caribbean needs to start being honest with itself in the terms of police intelligence, the arts, or the music and culture industry, if you want to call it that, and the platforming and aligning themselves with persons who literally are behind the scenes or openly promoting organized crime or violence or polished gangsterism. That's what I'm talking about. I think that we cannot continue to say, but it is happening in America too. So because it happens in America or other places, you in terms of the imagery, because you see, there's a difference between gangster image and the actual persons involved in polished gangsterism being platformed by political operatives and persons who can actually influence the youth. There's a big difference, So I don't know if you want to. Did you want to say anything or?
No, I heard Glenn Murray, myself and Glenn, we have been having some discussions from time to time, and he made the mention of something called organized crime, and I don't think that within the context of Barbados and maybe even the wider Caribbean that we really embrace that concept of the fact that you have criminal activity that is connected from Guyana through Trinidad and Tobago, through to Barbados, through the Grenadines, St. Vincent, all up through the Caribbean. And what I don't want to be branded a conspiracy theorist, but there are times I feel as though there is a strategy or an agenda being put forward to create an environment within the Caribbean to foster the implementation of another aspect of lockdowns and these type of things. So I'm glad to see you make mention of this matter of organized crime, and
Indeed.
because we don't see that. We sit down and watch movies and so on, and we hear reports out of the U.S. of the mafia, and the cartels, and And we say to ourselves, nah, boy, that don't happen around here. But in truth and in fact, it is happening.
It is already happening right before you because, as you can see, sometimes I find that the modus operandi of like how robberies and stuff are happening in Trinidad, you're starting to see almost like a mirroring of it in Barbados. And where we're going with this, right? And then there's the public service vehicle culture. Where I'm going with that is that the next slide or the next information is going to all intersect that. Where that culture started, in my opinion, to be more toxic, I believe is from the, let's say 30 years ago, maybe even let's say the 80s and up and onward when you had the old tapes and stuff. And there was a intersectionality with event planners, the public service vehicles, and the last one that I'm going to mention now would be political operatives being able to sit back after the whole conundrum is set up and get into it. Let's go from the top there, come down from the right. So where the public service vehicle culture comes in, as we all can note it to be with on the van, minivan, and minibus and stuff. And I'm not trying to attack the public service, but if over the last 30 years, Barbados or Barbadians can be true to themselves at the lyricism and the violent lyricism that has been so proliferated on the minivans, it might be a nucleus, but it's a significant nucleus to ascribe a tech, if you want to call it that, to that. I'm saying it intersects with artists and DJs who mostly promote hyper-violent and lewd lyricism towards the facilitation of event planners on public service vehicles. And what this essentially means is that what started to happen even from the 80s till now is that you would see let's say I had a dub or I had a FET, because they call it different names in different eras of dub. Nobody don't talk about they're going to a dub. They say they're going to a FET now, or a bus crawl, not a bus crawl, or a party, or whatever the case is, or a boat cruise. And the persons who are in charge, who are associated with that, or the DJs or whoever it be, would be funneling those mixtapes and whatever it be to the minivans and minibuses. And then from there, the event planners in turn would coordinate behind the scenes with a stream of businesses. Now, a lot of people don't understand that there's a. I'm not trying to put down the music industry, because what I'm talking about is the negative parts of things in terms of those, and I don't have to tell Bajans what is negative. Bajans of themselves know what is negative, and they can deduce, or each Caribbean country knows what they believe is wholesome amongst themselves, amongst the collective conscience of the people. They know what they constitute as being wholesome or being negative. I'm saying that the event plans in turn coordinate behind the scenes with a stream of businesses, as you would know, the ticket processing, the culinary, the song and equipment, lighting, transportation, fashion industry. People gotta look good to get good. So what I'm trying to say is that what I am seeing is trends in Jamaica, Trinidad, creeping into Barbados as well too, where you want to platform persons who that behind the scenes are not only engaged but are supporters of organized crime, and not only organized crime but who support gang culture and stuff like that. And when you do that as a country, in small countries across the Caribbean, then the only next step now is the actual influence of what is happening in the wider world to compound with that, and is as you often say, is now dead. And then the last phase now, as you would the spin-off of all the other tenants that are operating, including the media, broadcasting, and the film industry. Because when it comes to events of that nature, it's a whole package. Then you're talking about the political operatives who come in, who lurk in the shadows. Why say lurk in the shadows? Political operatives throughout the Caribbean would sit back and like you're going to a race and you're trying to bet on a horse, and persons who they believe that gets the crowd moving the most, or who can actually bring out the youth. And it appears, I don't know, it appears that way, that some political operatives, they don't care if the message is good, bad, or indifferent. Their goal is to wait. The stadium pack up with X, the stadium pack up with Y. I want X and Y at my political campaign, though. I want X and Y at my the campaign process in the campaign process. So political operatives can utilize the facilitation of the mileage of the aforementioned tenants to infiltrate the youth in schools, school leavers, and adults, as you would know. They gauge the attraction, as I said earlier, to certain combination uses of performances, because you know that there's some things, there's some not only performers, but there's some performances that
but Abraham, I saw some performances on video that, and the police are present, and nobody has been arrested, and the performances are vulgar in a breach of the laws of the country.
Well, you see, that is where you are totally so you're understanding now that I am not trying to be diplomatic, but if I go too direct, I would be calling names and specific situations. I don't need to do that for this purpose. And then there's the lyricism and the community over or covert presence, right? And I just did an example on the ground here with me saying, you see the crowd that Ting had. So that's in other words, that's the mindset that they would say. You see the crowd that Ting had or thing. So throughout the Caribbean, between Jamaica, Trinidad, and creeping into Barbados, is the blind eye, as well as St. Vincent. I've been watching some developments here, and there's a reason I'm saying that, because the next picture will show that, where there's obviously a blind eye as it relates to the substance of a thing, but the economics of a thing is more. And I'm going to leave this photo for people to think of. I am not going to judge it. I am going to let it be. You know why I'm going to let it be? Everybody has their opinion. The reason I'm showing this photo, if who doesn't know who's in the photo, can look closer. This is no other than the Prime Minister of St. Vincent, Mr. Ralph Gonsalves, more in a video there, FaceTiming, or if you want to call it whatever you want to call it, videoing, Cartel, who's in my opinion, a lot of people are underrating the rise, or I should say the resurgence of Cartel in the Caribbean. And people don't understand that Cartel's presence is almost his residual presence is akin to what I would believe is not really like the wealth of Michael Jackson or the wealth of Rihanna, but his influence in the Caribbean on the same minivans and minibuses and stuff for over 30 years now surpassed any calypso song that you can hear that win a crown in Barbados. So the reason I'm talking about this and I'm mentioning it is that when governments seek to platform, not necessarily Cartel, any person that they want to, because the purpose of this is not to set up or pull down any person. I am just drawing an illustration to one artist who I believe is, in my opinion, one of the ultimate. When I say ultimate, you can't go in Jamaica or any place that promotes dancehall, and the ratings, some will seldom go beyond him. So I am asking or appealing to Caribbean event planners and political operatives that when you go to see economics first and hiding the actual embodiment of the support of either organized crime or behind the elements of that nature, you have to wait and see what is going on. And each Caribbean country has to know what and who. If you think that X person's message is good for you, or Y person's message is good for you, fine. But don't come in the next breath to tell youth that, or to ask a PS or some person to speak to youth. I think last year sometime, did you remember a PS being in a church or something like that, talking to the youth or something like that? I think it was. I remember a PS. Imagine something.
I can't remember who it was, but
I remember that very well because my brain is one that I scope media and scope news and stuff. I remember that vividly, and it stand up like a sore thumb. A PS. Can you believe that? coming to speak to the youth. But governments in the Caribbean platform what they believe is good for the youth. I leave that to you, Dr.
Well,
Ferdy.
the thing is that, and I have a couple of other guests coming in. I
Mhm.
really have to apologize to one of them because I gave them a time to come in, but I totally forgot that I think in the U.S. in the area they may be is a 1 hour behind. So
Oh,
the
I see.
time I gave them would actually be no. I should have told them an earlier time, but I gave
Oh,
them
okay.
a time. But that's fine. I'm going to get them in, and Mr. Derek Allen, I'm going to get him in just a moment. But let me just say this. I I I don't know if you remember the influence of music in the years gone by.
Right.
Remember the Beatles. The Beatles is who started calling policemen pigs, and it caught on. Music is a very, 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 very powerful
Influential.
influence and medium. And
Yep.
lyrics are equally powerful, and the
Yep.
beat and
Right.
rhythm. I learned these things from a religious standpoint because we had to understand the spiritual implications of the rhythms and the beats, not
But
just the lyrics.
correct. And
People,
we as African people have to understand that and embrace it. Not run from it. We have to
correct,
embrace it. But I
correct.
think that what we don't understand or we slight, I don't mind people talking a lot of nonsense. We as African people need to to embrace like how you have the beat of the drum and tim the djembes and stuff like that because it relates to our spirit, in terms of what But as the other part to that is that when you add certain lyricism onto those sacred beats, then that is what there's where the
And
trouble
you see,
starts.
the one thing that you will also get to, Abraham, is that, and funny enough, sacred things can be polluted. You
Correct.
can't pollute things that are not sacred.
True.
You can't. But
True.
you can take something that is sacred and pervert it.
Correct.
Whenever you hear about a perversion, it starts with a sacred thing or a holy thing or valuable thing, however you want to put it, and then it's perverted. You see, and I made a note here as you were speaking. I said I wrote this down. Vulgarity is at its highest. It
Indeed, because
seems that the only way that you can be attractive in today's environment, particularly within the context of what you've just shared with us, music, artists, lyrics, and so on, is the more vulgarity you put into what you're doing, the more it is embraced. And in the midst of that vulgarity, you get a lot of lyrical content to do with violence and gun violence and
correct, correct.
domestic violence against women and against children. These are
Especially women,
yes,
I,
yes, and
I, I,
these yeah. Go ahead, go ahead.
I don't know for the lack of, I don't know why Barbados right now, as we know, has and rightfully so, and earn and they earn their position as it relates to women in Barbados over the last couple of years, and more so now, have seen themselves at the highest positions in almost everything you can think about. And I don't understand why women would want to encourage violent lyricism against themselves or against young women especially. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. And then then when that violence is embedded into the young boys, then the young boys feed onto it and be very abusive towards the same women. To me, it doesn't make sense. Is it you're encouraging or trying to inculcate violence in young boys, and then and not only young boys, because there's some women too. There's some women, as you know, as the Bajans would say, some women that put some blows in other women too. So I think that um, to put it in a nutshell, governments around the Caribbean cannot encourage or support or platform violence in the arts, music and the arts, and then on the other hand, appeal to the world, oh poor me, the violence is taking over our country. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. And we don't seem to understand the economic the fallout from all of
Correct.
this because,
Correct.
as I mentioned, you weren't on a little earlier when I made mention of it. I made mention of the fact that the whole aspect of what you call these things that different governments will announce, travel advisories,
Right,
you
right.
know, will be issued, and as a result of that, you will get people avoiding your country, tourists
True.
avoiding coming to the country. You know, we have this regathering, and you're trying to bring the diaspora of Barbados back to one of the most violent environments Barbados has ever seen in its history. I
Right.
mean, within the last just couple of days, we've had about 3 shootings and a robbery
Mass
within the last couple of days.
three what Dr. Ferdinand, what kind of shootings? Mass shootings.
Yeah, well, by the definition that you have just expressed, because to be
Correct.
honest with you, I did not, you know, you see, the thing is that we tend to think these mass shootings by how we define things, or only within like a school situation that you would see happen in the States or in a
No,
mall or something like
it doesn't
that.
have to be a lot of
You
people.
see,
The
yeah.
fact from the time that you have opened fire in intending to kill, it doesn't have to always kill, but with the intent to kill in an open area, that is a mass shooting.
Right, right.
As you can go, you can Google it yourself. You can go to the
Oh no,
Britannica.
I will do that, and but I have no reason to doubt you. But you know,
Right.
let me bring in Mr. Derek Aline. Mr. Derek Aline, I hope you're hearing me. I'm going to bring you in. And Mr. Aline is joining us to provide some critical analysis of the Barbados crime situation and provide some insights and solutions. Mr. Aline, welcome to the Marcy Week Show. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. You'll have to unmute your mic because I see you're still muted. And on the behalf of Marcia, okay, we're getting a little static noise from you, but um,
But I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear, but there's just a little static in the back where you have a fan around.
No, I am. I was on the front road because I went home and I was having problems with my connectivity.
Okay.
And that's why I came off the computer and I decided to use my phone.
Okay, all right. Well, you
Right.
you you stay right there. Welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Happy 2025. I'm going to pull all of you in if I can, and we can have a discussion, because I see Mr. Morris De Freitas is also present, and he is. I understand from Marcia that he was formerly involved in a life of crime, and he has been able to shed that aspect, and so he wants to share some of those areas with him. So I'm going to welcome you as well, Maurice. Good evening, Maurice. I apologize for the time I gave you, but I forget.
Mhm.
No
I
worries.
forget the time differences. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So let me welcome all of you together. Maurice, Derek,
Thank you.
Abraham,
Thank you.
welcome to the Marcy Week Show. Happy 2025. We're having an intriguing discussion concerning the crime situation in Barbados. I'm sure all of you are aware of what is happening. We've just had Mr. Millington, Abraham Millington, share some very, very interesting information concerning that aspect as well. And the area in his contribution that caught my attention, Derek, if you don't mind, I'm going to mute you for a minute. So whenever you're ready to talk, you can unmute your mic, just that we get in a little background noise there. All right. So whenever you're going to speak, you can unmute, and then I can mute you back. But Abraham was sharing, Maurice and Derek, on the areas involved in terms of crime and violence. But the thing that caught my attention was the influence and impact within the context of the artists, the music industry, the entertainers, the performers. And he made statement of something: performances. And you know, and we seem to have generated, pardon this expression, I'm not saying it because I'm a religious individual, I'm saying it because I think I'm a decent person. Okay, and that is this walk up, you know, there's such vulgarity, you know. We have our little girl children growing up seeing this stuff, and then we are wondering why immorality is rampant, and all of these things are tied in together, you know. We don't seem to realize it. And the lyrical content of a lot of the songs, and it's not just the songs. I played a song earlier which I might jump to at some point as we are talking. One of the performers, I think, in Trinidad. I don't know if you heard that song, Abraham, that I had played a little earlier. And I mean, man, you know, you have mothers crying over the death of a child. who himself was a wicked person going around shooting people too and all that kind of thing, you know. So let's have a bit of a discussion with it. Derek, let me bring you
Yeah.
straight in if I can.
Now listen, we the whole issue really is about indiscipline, and there's indiscipline in our behavior as parents, indifferent in discipline as brothers and sisters to our children and our nephews and so on. In discipline in fiscal management, in discipline on the roads, in discipline at the schools. So, and when you become indisciplined, you become reactive.
Mhm.
You become reactive, and then when you react, you do it on impulse without really engaging the cost benefits of the action. So you go to a lime in Barbados now, and a guy mashes another guy, and he says sorry, and he says no, that's not good enough, and it starts a row. So the violence is a reflection of the level of indiscipline across all aspects of our society. And we can only do that, we can only deal with it if we all accept that each of us has a role to change the direction and the level of indiscipline in Barbados. The violence is just one manifestation of it. I live on Black Rock, and I see men with motorcycles come up the road and they lift up the front wheel and they go from the Catholic church to the traffic light with no concern about the impact that is having on people around them. They don't care.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We have a law in Barbados that you're supposed to wear helmets on bicycles. Nobody wears a helmet. And there's no sanction. We have a law or a regulation that says a minibus is to do A, B, and C. The governments provide free traveling on public vehicles for school children, and the school children get on the minibus and pay to behave bad, and there's no sanction. Nobody is concerned about it.
You have to ask.
We decided that children can go to school and do the hair and dress how they like. There's no standard. Boys don't no longer have to have the hair comb. They can go out them plait. They don't even got hair then. They can just go to school anyhow. That's indiscipline. So you get on a school bus and a bus and you see somebody saying, no, you don't know if it's the boy or girl. So it is not just the guns and the violence, it's a whole potpourri of indiscipline. In Barbados, we are a very indisciplined society, and it is becoming worse. So I move past now the gun shooting and all of those things, because that is a lived experience of every Barbadian now.
Right, right. So what you're saying, Derek, if I can just cross you for a sec, what you're saying then is the fundamental root problem, because in our areas of ministry, we like to try like a doctor. I've always said doctors prescribe treatment for symptoms; they never seem to get to the root cause. One of the things I've noticed, for example, and maybe some of you have noticed it. I don't know, Abraham, if where you are, and Maurice, if where you are, you notice this, but certainly in Barbados, you drive at night and nobody's dipping their lights anymore. Nobody is turning on an indicator anymore.
Right now. Yeah, the lights are brighter, and they got this fancy thing now that people like my age, I really don't drive at night anymore. That's too dangerous. That's too dangerous. But let me just make a general point. No, I tune in to the parliamentary debates. We used to go heckling with people sitting down, and in the heckling who's speaking.
Disorder.
And people would say,
yes.
Please don't interrupt, and it will come back to order. So it doesn't happen anymore. Sometimes the Speaker of Barbados enjoys the discussion to disrupt the leader of the opposition, rather
Yes,
than bring
I've seen that.
discipline and order. And the Speaker makes a speech. He makes a speech. The Speaker that is not to engage in the debate, but I'm saying the level of indiscipline has gone even in the House. All of our standards, don't care what they are, the way we dress, the language on a football field, nobody no longer says tackle. They say take you out. When they play football, they say tackle. They say, you know, take you out. The language is violent. So there is no 5 things that are going to change the direction Barbados is heading. It is 100 small things. The church dealing with Sunday school and getting parents not to send the children to Sunday school, but bring them to Sunday school. The school getting PTAs to function. We got institutions that we set up to build cohesiveness and foster direction and activities and so on. And we allowed all the institutions to falter because of our indiscipline. Probation department, ill resource, short of staff, short of money, poor facilities, youth service, inadequate staff, inadequate resources, community development, ill staff, ill resource. All of the institutions that are social institutions that are supposed to build discipline, focus, set standards are all under-resourced. But we set up embassies in Timbuktu that provide nothing except jobs for people. And the institutions here that we need to guide our society and give us focus, we undermine. So that is where we are. All of this gun shooting and all that is a reflection of the diminution and the degradation of human responses and relations in Barbados.
Oh.
I had to go to Sunday school. I went to church at 7 o'clock, did Sunday school, and then went back at 3 o'clock. And if my mother felt in movie, had to get back to St. Leonard's for the evening service. We had no choice. And if we get home and the little church in Boston, we had a service, we go up and go too. Gotta go there.
You know, I'm laughing. I'm laughing there. Well, let me tell you something. You know, I don't know you. I don't know what your experience was. I grew up in the days. I grew up in the days when we used to have afros. I don't know if any of y'all ever had an afro. I don't know. But Derek, you remember we had to have our afros. We could wear them, but we had to have them cut nicely. I remember growing up in primary school. I don't see it anymore. I remember growing up in primary school, where you had to hold out your hands like this. I don't know if you all remember any of these things, and you had to have your fingernails cleaned and all that kind of thing. Derek, you're muted if you're saying anything. Any of you are, you can interrupt me anytime. I'm quite prepared to take you. But we grew up and we didn't understand the discipline aspect of these things and what they would mean to us when we got older. Maurice, what is your take on this? I mean, you have lived through this, my friend. You know, you have come through the ranks, and I see you there now. I guess the ladies on the loyal opposition will say, looking so young and handsome, and so on. But tell us a little bit about your experience.
So first of all, let me say, flattery will get you everywhere. Thank you. I appreciate it, and it's a pleasure meeting you again. I'm not too sure if you remember we met back during Amaya's what you call it, Amaya. There was a gathering for Amaya, the young lady who needs a liver.
Oh,
and
yes.
There was something given for her there. like a drive
Yes.
for her. So we met
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
mutual
Okay.
associates, right? So thank you for having me
Yes.
on the show. I appreciate it. I appreciate Marcia Weeks having this on the show. So of course I'm currently here in the US. I was born and raised here in the US. And I grew up here, of course. I grew up in the, as they would consider, in the city, in the South Bronx. I don't like to consider it a ghetto. But that's where I was born and raised at, in neighborhoods that was riddled and filled with guns, violence, drugs, all the things you could possibly think of. And I'm quite sure America, the United States, is one of the leading countries that a great deal of countries are influenced by, especially Barbados. I've been to Barbados quite a few times, and I love the country. That's my home away from home. And one of the reasons why I go is because I know, other than me loving the landscape and the people there, I love it so much that I actually want to become immersed and ingrained in the country itself. I want to become absorbed in the country to the point where I've watched, I've followed, I've listened. Of course, I've been there. I've been in the communities, what they would consider some of the ghettos there. And I interact with the people. I'm not the tourist type to go there and stay up in. The last time I was there, I mean, of course, I took my wife out for her birthday. So, of course, we stayed in the hotel. But when I'm there, I'm actually there in the communities, out in what we considered the ghettos, respectfully, in those areas, function and living amongst the people, eating amongst the people, all the things. I do not hide in the crevices. I'm in the community, right? Because I love the people that much. So let me give you a small, really brief Reader's Digest version of me and my life. So you were informed that I was formerly incarcerated. Absolutely, yes. So I grew up in a single parent household without my father, only my mother. She had 5 children. I had 3 boys and 2 girls. So I have 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters. My mother wasn't rich. She was, her family, her father was from another country. Her father's from Suriname. Her mother's from the South. And so my mother grew up in the South, right? She came to New York. She had 2 of her kids down there, and the other 3 she had here in New York City, right? So I grew up without a father. And during that, of course, from what I understand, because I've never been of any other gender before or any other ethnic group, I've only been a black male and a black man all my life. So I can't speak for all others, right? And I always wanted to be a man. Always wanted to be a man. My entire life, from the time I was able to speak or actually open my eyes, I know that I always wanted to be a man. And what confirmed that is when my mother told me that I was born a breech baby and I didn't want to come out, right? And she had to force me out. So I realized that since there was not a man in my home, even my brothers, I didn't look up to them. The individuals that were in the community, which was the drug dealers, the gangsters, the stick-up kids, all these individuals, they weren't disrespectful to me. They weren't disrespectful to my family. They were super respectful. They were kind. They were nice to people in the community as well as my family. So, and I looked outside of my home. I'm like, I think that's what I want to be. I think that's who I want to be like. I want to be like them because those are my images of a man. You're only as good as your models that you see, or the models around you that you see and are able to absorb. My mother is not a man. She was able to be a woman, a mother figure, give me great morals, values, and principles, but that didn't cut it. I needed a firm hand. My mother showed me the best that she possibly could, and I love her for it, right? However, it didn't stop me from going outside of my home into the community and getting my second lesson. So the first lesson is in home, where you get all your cultural, training, your morals, your principles and values. You get that along with some tapping, right? So my mother was able to give me that. She was able to give me those things. Where today, some of the parenting doesn't involve that, unfortunately. And I don't say that unfortunately piece lightly. So as I started to come up in the community watching these individuals that were a part of this lifestyle, right? Here in America, because it's a lifestyle. It's a cultural lifestyle. Literally, like you have cultures and you have subcultures within the culture. So when I was coming up, because I'll be 50 in March, when I was coming up, there weren't the type of gangs that as they know them today, right? Where you have Bloods, Crips, and all types of other gangs going on. So I wasn't a part of that. I was a part of neighborhood, like this is my block, this is your block, you know, block. It was a block type of thing where areas is what we held down. We lived in the area, we were friends, we all got together. And if you went to another area and you decided to become friends with them, you could do the same thing. We all became really cool, right? So I started to indulge in these types of behaviors, negative behaviors. And I got arrested. I was arrested the first time I was arrested at the age of 13, right? It wasn't for a violent offense at the time, but I got arrested for it was selling marijuana. Then after that, of course, the crime started to escalate based off of how old I was, and I really wasn't being punished for it. You know, and when I say punished, I don't mean punished by the criminal legal system, because it's different, right? There's a thing called, as they call justice, and there's a thing called restorative justice that they call it now, but it's been going on. It should have went on a long time ago, but it wasn't pushed strong enough in order for people to know and understand exactly how they should deal with the youth. They didn't know how to deal with the youth at all, especially in our communities, and based off of racism and a bunch of other things. We were expected to be dealt with a certain way, and we were handed down very harsh sentences. So by the time I was 15, I had already been arrested multiple times. And that last time that I was arrested, I was sentenced to a term of 9 years to life as a juvenile, being 15 years old, right? I was sentenced in the Bronx County under 9 years to life. Out of that 9 years, well, I started off, they had me in juvenile courts, right? They had me in juvenile detention. From juvenile detention, I was transferred to the Department of Corrections, which is ages from like 16 and up. Out of that 9 years to life sentence, I did 17 years off of that sentence. I would go to the parole board every 2 years after the 9 year sentence, and they would add on 2 more years each time. So during that period of my sentence of incarceration, I realized that this individual that I thought I was, that really wasn't me. And what made me say that is because I started to look around and say to myself, like, this is not for me. This is not something that I actually want. I'm supposed to be living better. I can't believe I did some of the things that I've done. And why did I do it? I had to rationalize and realize that because I was so young, I was influenced by individuals that was only a few years older than me who didn't even know what they were doing, really. They knew what they were doing, but they didn't understand the fact of what they were doing or the magnitude of violence that they were committing to the point where they would actually have to pay for it. Because it always, you know, they have this saying, and it's scientific, it's not my studies or it's scientific studies. You can actually Google it and look it up. The prefrontal cortex of the brain is not fully developed from birth to like the age of 27. And now it's going up based off of today's findings, right? So that part of the brain is responsible for reasoning, rationalization, right? Impulsivity. And if that's the last part of the brain to develop, right? So when we were young, coming up, committing these crimes and doing all these things that a lot of young people do, how much responsibility are you expected for that young person and that young mind and experience to actually take? Of course, yes, they know what they're doing, but they don't understand the magnitude of the consequences that they're doing. It's like having cognitive dissonance, right? You smoking a cigarette, you know, it tells you on the box, Surgeon General says this thing will kill you, but yet you still do it. That's called cognitive dissonance, right? You're doing a thing and you know you're not supposed to be doing it because they will have this negative effect and impact on you, but you still continue to do it. So that's what happened to me, right? I still did this thing and I received the consequences. And it wasn't until after I spent the amount of time that I did educating myself, coming in contact with the right people, doing the right things, interacting with younger people and older people that had my best interests as well as their own. To be released, after almost 20 years, 17 years, to reintegrate back into society, only to become indulged and immersed in or should I say, the same people or the same entities that actually put me away.
Right, right. I want to ask you a couple of questions, and not to interrupt your testimony.
Sure, no problem.
Interesting. I'm used to using that word testimony from the religious standpoint,
That's
so
fine.
we fully understand it. But based on the life, there are two things that are running through my mind. One question, actually, Adrian Hines has asked. I don't know if you can see the comment up on the screen there, because one of the things that Marcia did mention to me was that you would share some of the programs that were being used in the Bronx. And Adrian is asking the question, what suggestions does the current speaker have for Barbados that might be helpful to us in combating the crime and violence in the country? Now, I'm mindful of the fact that very often you have to modify things because of the cultural differences and so on that exist in different societies. And that's one of the questions. But probably before you can get to that, I would like to ask you this one question.
Sure.
Derek mentioned the lack of discipline, and he seemed to focus on the fact that the lack of discipline is what is contributing or has contributed to the degeneration that we are seeing within the context of the society in Barbados. Could you attribute your deviant behavior as you were growing up to such a thing as a lack of discipline?
That's kind of like almost a 50-50, right? Because you can't perform something or conduct yourself or comport yourself a certain way that if you weren't taught that, if you don't know, you can't do it. Now, did my mother teach me that? Of course she did. Of course she taught me discipline, but she taught me discipline from her perspective, from the way she knew how. Now, how am I supposed to implement that? How am I supposed to implement that as a young, barely teenage brain? How am I supposed to implement the discipline that my mother's telling me on a consistent basis if she's not there walking every step of the way with me? If I have no adult male there, and I'm emphasizing on male, right?
Yes,
because I'm a male. So if I don't have that step-by-step manual walkthrough, then how am I supposed to implement it? You expect for me to remember this 24 hours in a day when I have 24 hours in a day to do whatever it is that I feel like doing? How? When there's so many other distractions. The first education is at home. The second one is once you open that door to step outside your threshold, you have 1,000,000,001 spirits and other things coming at you. So, of course, it's definitely a lack of discipline, right? But it's also a lack of implementation on the individual, right? That's showing you. And it doesn't mean it's a lack as it's a bad thing. And the reason why I say that, because that person that's telling you what to do, they themselves may not know how to implement it.
And they themselves might actually be practicing the very same thing that they're saying to you not to do. Because, as you watch the development of a child learns by example I can't remember what they say psychologically. I think for the first 7 years of their lives. I think it's the Jesuits that say something about give me a child for the first 7 years and I'll show you the man. So they have that aspect of it. I saw you. I'm almost feeling like a bit of a church person here, Abraham. I see that hand. I saw you raise your hand. Yeah, but you need to unmute. And Derek, you can jump in anytime you wish as well.
No, we're saying the first 5 years and
first 5.
Yeah, I think it's the first 5. But what I want to commend, I wanted to commend
Maurice.
Maurice.
Yeah.
And what I need to mention is that Barbados lacks severely, and I'm taking off the music hat now, putting on law and society and that sort of stuff, with criminology and whatever. I don't think that Barbados is serious enough as it relates to the reintegration, wholesome reintegration of persons from the criminals, the prison system into real life, back into the society. I find that there's still Barbados is still too much on a double victimization trajectory, where there's like odd things, you have very skilled people coming out of the prison system. If you want to reintegrate some person into society, don't look to do an odd thing and have meaningful engagement for them. If it is a skill that they can do, pay them what they deserve. Don't So I'm not trying to go off the topic, but hearing what your
You're on
testimony was.
topic. You're on topic.
Pardon?
You're on topic. No, you're good. You're on topic.
But come on, you're looking at a person who would have been in as it relates to a study from 2010. But I mean, I would have been involved in that as it is in policing. But I'm talking about as it relates to studying it. Man, Barbara, look, we need to stop treating persons that come from the prison system like how. Sorry to say, one laugh, but I won't laugh. Like how some people in Barbados treat some person that that the Rambohol can't get beyond them, and what they do is like they dangle the Rambohol, they dangle the Rambohol, and bring a person that they know that is
that is weak in that area.
But listen, I work at the Labor Department, and I was responsible for the program, the after prison care.
Correct.
For 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I visited the prison every other week and counsel people leaving the prison who wanted to go back to work and so on. And there was a program. There was a structured program with employers that I would meet with, and I'm prepared the way for those prisoners to get back into the socioeconomic environment in Barbados.
And not
it doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
It doesn't happen anymore. So I'm saying is we build institutions and structures that, because Barbadians are smart people generally. And everything that has happened to Barbados, we build a guard, we build a structure, we build a program. And then we refuse to feed it, to nourish it, and to sustain it. Everyone I call the probation department, all of those institutions, once they are provided with the nourishment, we will not be in this hole. But we have them, and then we undernourish them, and then we expect to survive. Our problem is that we do not resource the institutions that have been developed to build individual communities and national development, and I say that with a passion.
Well, I can so agree with you. I'm saying a comment in the chat that I have to, as the saying goes, I gotta jump on it. Being Barbara, I talking Bajan talk for purpose. I ain't talking a pretty talk. I talking Bajan talk, man. Bajans have this thing about making sport or making a lot of sport at persons who they believe, or either who they know or believe to have mental challenges. And I have not heard much of the Minister of Health as it relates to because when you start to deal with the reintegration of a person into society, whether the person has mental challenges or not, we haven't even spoken to that part yet. But I'm speaking to this one now. We're at village level. When children see parents and relatives or whoever it be, or adults in the village continually making mockery of persons who they either believe to have mental challenges or they actually do. That is why even in schools, the peer pressure is there, and insensitivity. There's a high level of insensitivity that is a natural thing amongst Barbadians, and we need to admit it. You can't get over it if you don't admit it. And I think that a lot has to start in the schools and amongst family life and communities, so that sensitivity can be that people can feel protected as opposed to feeling unmasked in societies. And when that happens, then the macro reintegration process of persons coming from the prison environment would start to actually have a better even keel. I mean, as Dr. So your name is gone again from me again. Dr. Allen is speaking to the lack of those other like juvenile stages and stuff. But if the effort is lacking at that stage, it's only obvious that at the community level that you really can't look to with all the people doing the crimes and stuff and coming up to prison. And when they come up, then what? They come back up to mockery. They should be coming back up to a situation where persons are actually sensitized to. I'm not saying that everybody's going to have a open arm approach, because some people they just they don't know how to forgive. But what I'm trying to say is that sensitivity needs to be nurtured from the from macro, from whether it be the Ministry of Health or whoever it be,
I,
programs
I,
in the
I,
schools.
I work at Verona House. I work at Verona House, and
Mhm.
every Thursday, the the inmates, not all, but some of the inmates at psychiatric hospital will come to Verona House for counseling and re-engagement into ethics about work and that sort of thing. And you know that we're talking about the 1980s. I think 1980s when they were at Verona House, and we into 2024, and those foundation programs and activities just disappeared. You see MTW used to have some people called casuals. Then the mad people with inverted commas. Those are people who MTW will hire because nobody else will hire them.
But can I interrupt? Can I
Yeah.
interrupt you there? I think I'm glad that you mentioned that because at the level of parliament or governmental level, Barbados has to come away from that and own up to it because we can't continue to be an environment where persons with mental challenges or mental health issues continue to feel like, because what will happen is that people will start to feel like they're in a prison. You'll be walking about on the road, but you still feel like you're in a prison because you have that level of insensitivity. Is for who in the chat? Sorry, so for who in the here we talking about chat? For who in the on the show knows the Game of Thrones is like Cersei, her walk of shame. You know, it's like F Barbados from children or up, youth up in schools and up aren't sensitized not only to persons with mental challenges. We had a much ado about the disabled just I think a week or two ago, right? We had a much ado about the disabled as it relates. So there was some sort of campaign of some sort or some sort of whatever it was, even if it was at the level of a discussion. So mental health as it intersects with the disabled, the sensitivity has to start.
I was sent to England on a fellowship, on a
Mhm.
fellowship, 3 months at the University of Warwick to look at employment practices in Britain and how they dealt with people with they identified 34 disabilities at that time. And each one of them, they had a method that you would find a activity in the program to get that person brought back
Commen-
into mainstream.
commensurate.
Right? And Kenneth Walters, who was the registrar at university too, he went to Canada to do a similar thing. And we came back and we started a whole set of activities for people with challenges, for the mental health, for ex-prisoners. We started something for young people called job clubs. That I talking about the late 80s and into the 90s. Nothing happens now.
You know, one of the things too that I always keep in mind, and just incidentally, so that all of us know, and even those of you on the loyal opposition, the comments we make here are not personal attacks on any individual and that type of thing. We're looking at issues. Sometimes you may get the name of a person called or whatever, even just as an illustration. But first of all, Dr. Aline is speaking about the matter of indiscipline and speaking to the matter of indiscipline from places like Parliament, home, school, those areas. We're talking as well about the whole matter of the psychological makeup. You're correct that there is a taboo associated with whenever we start to talk about persons having psychological issues. The reality is, quite frankly, that we all suffer from some type of psychological conflict, because of the stresses we carry, our upbringing, our socialization, the colonization of our current country has set our mindsets in a particular way, that we need to have shifts and changes. Gentlemen, even within the context of the church, we have a lot of psychological and emotional issues. We have a lot of people coming to us for what we will term as deliverance when we sit down and we go back through their generational history. Just like a doctor, when you sit down and you talk with a doctor, what does the doctor do? The first thing the doctor starts to talk to you about is, did your father have this? Did your mother have that? Did your grandfather have that? And they begin to look a bit back at your family history. And so too, in the context of the psychological impact and emotional impacts that we often encounter, we do a similar thing. We realize that very often persons who grow up in a dysfunctional family become dysfunctional persons generally. And those persons who do not really have to fight to make something of themselves. And there are a lot of psychological issues that people are dealing with. Let me give you an example. And again, Derek, you would be familiar with this, and I'm sure you all would know situations like this. We had a member of our church who, at 65 years old, was meeting her father for the first time. Could you imagine the impact that would have had on her psychologically at 65? She never knew her dad until 65 years later. These are all things that many children are going into school coming from dysfunctional households, where they're having to engage significant traumas of all different kinds. And these are things that are very realistic. And I see Adrian was asking about the presence of psychologists, persons who deal in terms of psychology. Now, I don't know if counselors in the school system. Derek, I don't know if you might be able to make a comment about this. If the counselors, Dr. Aline, in the school system are necessarily psychologically trained in the context of dealing with the children, because
they are, but the problem is the number. You have a counselor for 300 students.
Oh,
and that's like asking, you mind to find a needle in a haystack?
Right. And obviously it's an economic issue, if I may say so, in the context of and I think somebody mentioned something about a skill. I'm looking at you, Maurice, and I'm thinking to myself, a person coming out of your experience. And Derek, I think this used to happen some years ago. I don't know if it happens now. Didn't we have times when different persons, even like yourself, Maurice, and Abraham, like yourself, I mean, you remember the days when we used to have police officers come into schools to talk to the children and to share with the children. Maurice, you might remember persons who had gone through their own deviant type of lifestyle would be able to come into the schools and talk with the children, to help to direct them in a particular direction, a particular path to avoid certain deviant type behavior and so on. Does this kind of thing still happen? And I still want to get back to some of the initiatives that you think are in use in the Bronx that you think could be applicable within the context of Barbados, and
Sure.
Share with us and Derek. Dr.
Absolutely.
Ali.
The thing about it is that I know it would be. There's no ifs, ands about it. The reason why I say I know, right, is because Barbados is just the micro of America, of this macro here in America, like most of these countries are. America is one of the lead countries, right? One of the lead countries in terms of setting trends, and they all are not good.
Yeah.
All of them are not good, especially when it comes to inner city communities of African people, like the brother said, especially that marginalized communities, underserved communities are the communities that are hit the hardest, communities that experience poverty, food insecurities, financial insecurities, employment insecurities, all these things, right? So to answer your question, the cop that's coming into the schools or to speak to the young people, they don't want to hear anything from them. Why? Because like Barbados, respectfully, other than the NYPD here in the United States, they don't trust them. They don't trust them. Right here in the community, they don't trust them. If they were, and it doesn't matter what color you are, they don't trust it based off of past experiences and current and present experiences that they experience every single day, whether it's walking to school, whether it's coming from school, whether it's going inside your home, sticking the key in your door, regardless of whether it's sitting in your car, no matter what it is, the young people do not want to hear anything that they have to say. If they don't see them committing a positive act, they don't want to talk. And it's understandable because it's based off of their experiences. Them seeing a family member getting killed, beaten, a friend getting killed or beaten, right? And it doesn't matter. They're not discriminating, whether it's a young girl or a young boy, elderly, whoever. So, of course, why would they want to actually listen to police officers, right? So, but there is a remedy to that, though. There's a remedy to that because, like you said, there's people such as myself that have gotten out, right? That did not recidivate because I did 17 years in prison. I've been home for 17 years. So now the time that I did, December 20th of last year, 2024 that just passed, made 17 years. So I matched the time that I've been in prison out of prison. And I went in when I was 15. So I spent more time in than I did out. But now I just recently matched that. So now it's equal, right? So individuals such as myself, right? They have this term, and I'm quite sure it hasn't reached Barbados yet. I know that for a fact. It's called a credible messenger, right? A credible messenger is listen to the words credible message, right? You put the two together. Now think about the communities, inner city communities here. I'm gonna use the term that people use, the ghettos, right? Now, individuals that were a part of a certain lifestyle, whether you were drinking, drugging, suffer from alcoholism, substance abuse, violent crimes, drug selling, whatever it is, right, has experienced these things, right? They become incarcerated. They get incarcerated. They spend an X amount of years in prison. Now, before they went in, they was a part of this certain type of subculture and lifestyle that was glorified at one time, right? So now they have a name in the community. Their name is good in the hood, or whatever the case may be, as you want to consider it, whether it's considered positive or negative. Some people's negative are other people's positives, right? And vice versa. So now you have this individual that represented this certain type of lifestyle before they went in. They got themselves together. They changed their lives completely. They went to school, got an education. They stopped drinking, drugging. They stopped the behaviors that they were doing prior to incarceration. And now they're free. So since they're free, now people are looking for them to do the exact same thing, but no, they're doing the complete opposite. Now, it's not that they're on the sides of the law, but they came back with a credible message, and they are the messenger. So the message that they come back with now is, right, for lack of a better words, that lifestyle that I used to live is really about nothing. Violence is about nothing. It's about getting an education. It's about educating yourself, becoming employed, whether it's for someone else or you becoming an entrepreneur. You getting the health, the mental health support that you actually need. Because not only in Barbados, but in the Black community within itself, mental health was taboo. I grew up during that era, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the credible messenger comes with this credible message, right? The reason why he's credible because he's been through it. He lived it all. You used to look up to me, and now I come back. You looking up to me to produce the same types of behaviors and results that I did prior to? No, I'm not doing that. If you're still gonna respect me for who I am, not for who I used to be. And now, with the behavior that I'm exemplifying, the individuals that used to follow me before are gonna say, "Yo, this individual's changed for positive. How did you do it, and what are you doing now? I see you look clean. I see you no longer doing drugs. I see you no longer selling drugs. How did you do this? What are the things that you're doing?" So now I have these same people or their younger siblings or children that were looking up to me prior to my negative behavior, right? Now they're looking up to me in a positive way because I've changed. So now anything that I become involved with that's positive, they're going to follow me and listen to what I'm saying. So I'm going to feed it back. I'm going to funnel it back into the community from a positive aspect. So no, they won't listen to the police in the community, but they'll listen to the ex-drug dealer, the ex-thug, the ex-con. And I don't like using that word con, but I'm using this so that you can identify with who I'm speaking about and the demographic that I'm speaking about, right? They'll listen to them because this is the individual, like I said, that I wanted to be like. So now this person's changed, and the individuals that are out there, they don't have no one to look up to that's positive, because if they did, they will follow it. So that's what a credible messenger is. A credible messenger, individual that been through turmoil, tumultuous times, and have gone away, right? Or not even going to prison. You don't have to go to prison to be a credible messenger. You could just bounce back and become resilient from an adversity that you experience. And now this is the life you're living. You've gotten a chance to become whatever it is that you wanted to do, a director, a supervisor, right? You can now have a job working for Amazon. You can do all these things, right? That you had probably never even thought about doing before you changed your life. And now you have a whole community or communities behind you on your back, wanting to find out what it is that you've done to change your life and how can we get down? How can we become a part of this?
You know, Maurice, what you're saying reminds me, and of course you would expect some kind of input from me as a Christian minister within this context, because when we talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, giving your life to Jesus, we talk about change of life. We're talking about the discarding of things that you used to do, the change that the Lord brings to your life. And we are often encouraging people not to go back out to be a theologian and a preacher, but to go back out and witness. And as you know, the word witness is indicative of the fact that you have experienced what you're talking about. You if you try to give a witness and you haven't experienced it, you're hearsay evidence, and it's not accepted. And so you have a number of the persons, drunkards, prostitutes, gang members, people who were, whose lives have been transformed by Jesus Christ. And I believe that people in the community, when I say that, I mean even on the block and whatnot, need to hear those testimonies like what you are talking about, where the change has occurred. You're not going to them, if you follow what I'm saying, with theology and banging them over the head with Bible, and you're telling them what has happened to my life.
And it's more than that.
Yeah, the relationship I have with the Lord has brought about this change. I used to do this. I used to be that. If you follow what I'm saying, this is what we encourage people to do.
So let me help you, because that alone is not only it. You need support. You need support.
Absolutely.
Yes. You need support from the locals on a city level, a state level, and a government level in order to make this happen, right? And the reason why I say that, I'm not just talking, I'm living this till this day. I'm actually a program solutions consultant myself, and I do that work right here in this country, right here in America, right here in my communities. And that's why I'm able to speak to this. This is just not dry talk, right? This is implementation. So people are hungry out there, right? People want money in their pockets. They need finances. They need funds, because at the end of the day, we can do all this talking, but money makes the world go round. People are hungry, right? People are couch surfing. They're homeless. They're without a home. They're living on other people, on their friends' couches from day to day. Some people are sleeping in the streets, right? And others just want food to eat. Some need to take care of their children. How do we expect for crime not to exist if these things aren't happening? If they have no incentives, right, to go out and do right. You would think that just life alone is an incentive. It's not, because everybody don't have the skills. And in order to produce these type of people from these communities, right, in order to bring these communities up from a city level, a state level, and a government level, have to pitch in and come together and create entities and situations for these young people in general, to be able to want to do better and to know how. And yes, I want to touch on the mental health topic as well, too, because that plays a major role in it. There's so many people walking around with mental health issues, right, that are getting arrested. Even a lot of the people that were drug dealers, prostitutes, substance abuse users, all that, right, is a part of mental health as well. And if you don't address these things, how can you expect for someone to be able to hold a job? How can you expect for someone to be employed? You can't. How can you expect for someone to be able to interact they have to pitch in. When I mean city, I mean the police departments, right? The I don't know how you have it out there, the province, the district attorney's office, whoever's responsible for the communities and the justice, right? In those communities, they have to come together and create this thing in order for people to be able to create skills to be able to have a job, because everybody doesn't come with skills. You have to be able to create skills. You have to give people incentives to want to do better, right? You have to give people, you have individuals that are out there in Barbados using firearms like it's no tomorrow. There's a remedy to that as well, too. I actually run a counter gun program over here in this country. Right now to this day, that's 85% successful based on the fact that individuals that I interact with every single day, right, are coming to this program, right? They were arrested for a firearm, for a first-time felony offense for a firearm. They come to the program and they receive therapeutic services, financial support, right, employment skills, mental health support, cognitive behavioral therapy, right, helps them manage their emotions. They receive all these services that helps them become a whole person. So it's not just talking to them, because talking doesn't pay the bills. Talking doesn't feed my child. Talking doesn't put money in my pocket. And talking doesn't help, doesn't stop all these other thoughts that's entering my mind when I'm making $15 or $20 an hour in comparison to $150 an hour. So you have to, if you're going to take something away, you have to put something in place. And if there's nothing in place, then the community, the local city, the state, and the government has to come together to create programs that provide the support for these people. How you think Barbados will come up? Barbados will thrive. Barbados will get back to prominence in the event that they address, really officially address, the violence, the gun violence that's going on in the country. Because people now, one of the things that Barbados is big on is tourism of the country, right? That's one of the biggest things. So how do you get people to want to come to the country? When they look it up, they want to see, oh, Barbados is beautiful, but let me see what the violence looks like over there. Oh, I'm not going there, right? Mm-hmm. So therefore, you address the violence, you get more people to come to the country, right, and bring their dollars. And in certain cases, the expats, they will want to come and bring their tax dollars there to the economy of Barbados. So it's a hand-to-hand thing. And trust you me, I promise you, I have the remedy to that. I get it. It's about the country being able to want to build, right, not only the economy, but help rebuild the communities and the people,
society.
The society within itself. They will shoot up. It's the young people, right? Because eventually we all going to get old and we're going to separate from this planet. You educate the young people. You provide resources and opportunity to these young people to be able to get an education, to be able to have a decent meal, to be able to put clothes on their back, to be able to feed their children, to be able to gain skills and get employment. Once these things happen, right, the economy shoot up, the community and the country within itself become more cohesive and want to be able to support and listen to each other and understand the dynamics of everything that's going on within the communities. It allows people to want to be able to support each other.
You know, the thing, and Abraham, I'm going to let you jump in here in a sec, but you know, the thing about it is, Maurice, you know, sometimes people look skeptically at these things, but you may not save everybody, but you may save some.
You heard the rate I said, right? 85%.
Yeah, 85%. You know, so you know, I think we need to pay attention. And again, you know, I think somebody mentioned about it's going to take the whole community, all of us. You know, sometimes we leave the responsibility with the government or with the church or with the family or with the school or whatever. But it really is going to take a cooperative, if I'm using the right, collaborative, is that the correct word? A collaborative effort from all of us. Not just sitting down, pointing fingers and saying, well, you this, you the next. But can we put our heads together? Can we sit down in a room?
For anyone say is, it is not going to be 5 or 6 big things. It's going to be 100 small things, with each of us contributing to or 3 of those small things.
Yes. Abraham.
Quickly, I just wanted to stop. Right. I just wanted to mention, since we talk about money, because it seems that you are also talking about not only the psychological equipping, but the literal resources that are needed to get the people into equipping themselves. But where I'm going with this is that I think that the Ministry of Education, or Barbados on a whole, is always putting the cart before the horse. I've heard of a situation of, is it 20 million? I can be corrected. Is it 20 million that was allocated, whether it was given or not? The word allocated is I'm using, for something called a youth advanced score. And where I think that the issue is coming here, you realize that the country is going haywire, where the violence in the schools, the illiteracy rates in terms of children struggling to capture certain things, and the need for a lot of extra lessons and this and that and the third that you are hearing about. Instead of spend that money in the primary level, where between the ages of, let's say, 4 to 8 or whatever the case is, or 4 to 6 or whatever, that you have a lot of the tenets that we were talking about today. More schools need to be outfitted with psychologists and stuff. But or I should say, most Bajans think that psychologists, you're going mad. Well, I have a psychologist, and I think I would encourage more psychologists in terms of Barbados or throughout the region to be, because we have this thing that if you have a psychologist, you're crazy. No, I think everybody who, if is not a psychologist, and you have or some persons have may have a person in the religious practices or whatever the case is, or whatever it be. But getting back to the point, the schools need more outfitting as it relates to mental health assistance, and not this leaving it till when everybody crash and you have this, you're setting this $20 million for a youth advanced score. Why such a push can't be in the primary schools? I was in secondary schools in the 90s. And even in the 90s, first form teachers were complaining, what is it that the children are doing at the primary level? Because they get to secondary school, and a lot of fundamentals they realize that the children don't have. So I think to rescue the situation that's happening in Barbados right now, more funds need to be put and resources need to be put in at the primary level, as opposed to
don't get carried away. The advanced, whatever it is the Barbados Youth Service.
I understand.
And not $20 million. And $20 million in right there. No money in right there. Don't get
allocated.
Let me say this to you. I thank God for my upbringing. Derek, Dr. Aline, I don't know if you can relate to what I'm about to say, but my mother was a principal. Don't know how many of you might know her. As Dr. Ali, you might have known her, Edna Nichols. She was a principal, primary school principal. She was at Boscobel, at St. Luke's primary school, a number of primary schools. And I grew up watching her take children into her office and talk with them. They were having challenges at home. And you could see the reason she knew was because it was being reflected in the productivity of their work. And so she would take them into the office to find out what's happening at home that is affected. And she became like a mother for many of those primary school students. Many of them today meet me and thank God for my mother and all the things that she's done. And I believe that is an aspect. And I don't know if these things can be taught, but maybe in the context of teacher training and that kind of thing, these could be some things that could be considered where teachers, I don't just want to say are taught psychology, but everything happens by relationship. Everything happens by relationship. And when a child develops a relationship with a teacher or whatever, it becomes a lot easier to deal with the problems. I also wanted to make mention of this aspect. We don't really, Dr. Adine, you might be able to comment on this. We don't really have respect in Barbados for people who are not academics.
That's another thing too.
We do not have respect for people who are carpenters, masons, growing up through school.
Those the people that make the world go round.
Yes, I don't know how many of you all remember Medford Mahogany. Medford Mahogany grew up with. He went to school with me, and he was a brilliant guy in the woodwork department. I wasn't so good. I mean, I can put together a bookshelf, but I don't ask me to do anything like what he does. It'd be a disaster. But we don't pay attention to the people within the context of even schools who may not necessarily be taken to the academics, but put them in a mechanic
Vocational.
environment or put vocational environment or whatever, and they just excel. And some of these persons, because we don't respect them, we don't pay them, end up getting involved, Maurice, in the circle of influence.
But that's the
That,
thing.
you know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. You have to, like, one of the things that they had took out of this country was jobs like that, right? Like the carpenters, the carpentry, masonry, electrical. Now all that stuff is coming back. Why? Is because the house you live in, psychologists didn't build that, right?
Nope. Nope. Nope.
The mental health clinician didn't build that your house, right?
Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
A
A politician and a lawyer didn't build it
none
either.
of them built it, right? So you can try to degrade these people all you want, but these are the people that make the world go round, and they should be paid viable, right? Wage prevailing jobs, right? Because you get these people that they learn the trade, they learn the skill. It does a couple of things. One of the things it builds their confidence. It builds their confidence. I can't build a house. I wish I could, because if I could build a house, I would build houses all over. I'll be building houses for free, right? I'll be building houses for free. Why? Because it does something to the soul. It gives you a trade, right? It allows you to put money in your pocket, and it also builds your confidence up so that you can feel as if you're a part of something. You've done something. You've accomplished something in life, right? And if you have all these intellectuals running around, where are the people that's building homes, that's building dams? Where are the people that's building railroads, that's really getting the psychologists and the politicians and the clinicians to work every single day? These are the people that we need to be invested in. Where do they live? In your communities. Where are some of them sitting right now? In prison, in jails, laying on the streets. That's where some of these people are at. So if we create, there's a need already for it. Supply the need. Educate these people. That's why I said I'm going to emphasize this, right? The government, and I'm going to go top to bottom, government, state, city, and local, right? The police departments, right? They have to be involved. There's no ifs, ands about it. You can't find your way around it. They have to be involved. I saw somebody write in the comments that all the police are corrupt. You can't go to a place in this world where you can't find corrupt police. You can't. You have to work with the people inside that are not corrupt or that are less corrupt or that you share one of the same vision. And we share the same, all of us share the same vision, one of the same visions that police officers share. You know what that is? We want crime to stop. We want crime to stop. So if you truly want crime to stop, then these are some of the things that need to be implemented.
Yes.
Give people jobs, right? Give people jobs. Again, and I saw somebody write in the comments that, some people, and it's not knocking them, that's how they feel. People need to be paid more money. I agree. But if you have young people that have no skills, you expect for them to go in this big job and be paid with no skill? No, you have to teach them skills. They need to learn skills through whether it's internships, apprenticeships, which are great, right? And coming on just for hands-on experience. And then once they finish their internship or their apprenticeship, then you can place them right in employment to that prevailing wage job, which also helps build the economy. Come on, stop playing with this. Let's go. What are we doing?
Maurice, as you're speaking, you know what's going through my mind, Dr. Eileen? Abraham, you are located in Barbados or overseas?
I am in Canada right now.
You're in Canada, but you've been home, and Maurice, you've been into Barbados. You all come in here, okay?
Yes.
And Dr. Eileen, when we're coming down the hill from CBC to Bussa, there are some entrepreneurs. Listen to me carefully. There are some entrepreneurs at the junction selling gooseberries.
Yes.
Sugar cane. Am I right, Dr. Eileen?
You mean the pine bears?
You muted. You're muted. Yeah, am I right, Dr. Eileen?
Whatever is in season. Whatever is in season.
But are
No,
they
they are
entrepreneurs?
enterprise builders.
Enterprise builders.
No,
You
they are
know, and
enterprise. I made a very clear distinction between enterprising person and an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a creative thinker. It
okay.
does not even have to be in a business. So that's a technical position I have.
Oh,
But I
thank you,
see
thank
those
you.
guys as enterprising people who are
Hmm.
looking to feed themselves and to
Capitalize.
not to depend on anybody to help them.
And how I
So
see
I
them
make
as
that distinction.
and how I see them as well is individuals who are attempting to avoid going particular directions, so they are seeking to
Correct.
try to do something legitimate. You know, the other
Right.
day
Correct. Right.
I
Right.
pulled up at the bank, and my there was a young fella selling oranges, 4 oranges in a bag, $10. I guess that might be a little pricey, you know, $2.70 for orange. But my wife looked at me and she said, "Let's buy a bag of oranges from him."
Yeah.
Because I am appreciate that he's trying to do
The
something
effort.
honest,
Yeah.
you know, and it makes we need to stop um, looking down our noses at these kind of individuals and scorning them and encouraging
Mhm.
them, you know, if you understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying, because
Of
some of
course.
these guys could be in the gangs too, bringing violence and whatnot to our districts and our homes, but they're here trying to do something legitimate, you know what I'm saying?
I want to just
We
revert.
have. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to revert back
Go
to
ahead.
one of the things that when he first came on, you spoke about, Dr. Ferdinand, when you said about the mother. It's going to sound like it's totally off topic, but it's not. You spoke about the mother crying over her son doing a mass shooting, right?
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And I'm
If
gonna tell you,
there's a song that I played, treated to that,
I
and
heard
I
it.
can probably do it. I can probably do it before we go off tonight.
so now I got a question. There's this thing called restorative justice, and I'm quite sure you heard of it before, right?
Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
I made a note of it when you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So with restorative justice is this. People have their own take of it, but I'm living proof of it. So I know exactly what it is. Restorative justice is individuals or a person or whoever commits a crime, what's considered a crime against somebody or entity or people or things or whatever. And instead of them being severely punished for the crime, right? They're punished. I'm using the word punished, but it's really not a punishment. They're dealt with in a different way. That doesn't mean that you don't go to prison. It doesn't mean that. What it means is this: get down to the real issue, the root of the problem, right? Find out what it is that happened, not in that specific crime that was committed, but prior to this person's life, their upbringing, what their parents was like, what their grandparents was like, what were they subjected to? Because a lot of times when
Yes.
people are subjected to certain things, they themselves act the things out. They become the perpetrator themselves, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
find out what happened before you just decide to completely destroy this person's life, right? Now, that doesn't mean they don't pay for the act that they committed. It's how they pay for the act that they committed and what's done after that. So you address the issue at hand in terms of the crime that they committed, right? You go back, you look into their family history, you dig all that, you find that out, right? And all this is a part of mental health and psychology, right?
Yes, it is. Yes,
You
it
know, a
is.
whole mental health assessment on them and everything to find out biopsychosocial, all the things on them to find out what happened to you, because you shouldn't be punished for something that you are not wholly responsible for. Trauma, right? Now, once you find all those things out, you address the issues, you address the individual, right? You address the victim, you address everybody in the situation. And then you move forward from there, right? By helping this individual understand exactly what it is that they have done and that this type of behavior is unacceptable and it cannot be done ever again. And this is why. Boom. You move forward and you work with them in the process of changing their behavior, which was restoring this individual's individuality, their behavior, their mindset. You giving them all the tools to become a whole new person. That's what restorative justice is about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You understand? So I
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
bring that up because the mother does get the cry because
yeah,
she
yeah,
herself didn't commit the crime, right?
yeah.
And she may only be a portion responsible for her son's behavior, or he or she could be wholly responsible for it, right? But at the end of the day, the person that committed the crime has to accept a sense of accountability. And that's what restorative justice is about. Accepting accountability for what you've done. Changing, you can't change the behavior, but changing your behavior. You can't change the act, but changing your behavior, right, is what can help push and move things forward, right? And that's, as a whole, these are things that need to be taught within the society in which Barbados is living in these days. So when I say I have answers, I have questions and I have tons of answers, and I'm not going based off of what is just coming out my mouth.
In other words, you're saying it's not theory. It's you've experienced it.
It's practical.
What we would
It's practical. It's not theory. It's
what
not
we
theory.
would call the school of hard knocks.
Yeah, it's not theory. It's practical, and it's going on right now today. I work in conjunction with the DA's office.
Your program in the Bronx, is that a state-funded program?
It's a few different entities where the funding is coming from, but that's why I put up the city, local city, state government, right?
Okay.
And these are the people that are the major role players in bringing the communities up in the country back to prominence. You push funds into the community and programs that are viable programs, that are real heavy, strong programs that know how to address the issues, that know how to address the problems. I know how to address gun violence. There's no ifs, ands about it. I was a part of it. I understand it. I know it. But does that make me a professional or expert? No. All the things that I embody is what makes me a professional and an expert. Implementation. That's what makes me a professional and an expert. Because anybody can go through some things and come out. It's what you do after. It's how you address it after. And I'm here in this country addressing it heavily.
Absolutely. Dr. Aline, you mentioned, I keep hearing you mention a number of things that were started and a number of initiatives that were done. We just have about 5 minutes left on the program. And gentlemen, I must be honest with you. I mean, this is such a pressing issue. I don't know what your availability is like, but I would love for us to regather again, if it is at all possible. Maybe, I don't know, if maybe next week, Wednesday, I have to see what Marcia's thoughts are in the context of that, because we still keep in touch, even though she's supposed to be on holiday. You know what I'm talking about. But you mentioned a number of things that seem to have dropped by the wayside. I keep hearing you make comments about things that used to be done, and I hear the word used to be on a regular basis. Are there some of these things that, if they are funded, could be rejuvenated, restarted?
Look, a program used to be a prison aftercare program, and we went to the reform schools for the young people, and to Dodds and to Glenderry, and it was we had to go there twice a month to sit with the social worker and to sit with the superintendent of prisons, and when people came out of prison, we would have started counseling with them while they were in prison. And when they came out, they came to Verona House, and the process continued. I don't want to call companies' names, but there were 5 or 6 companies who would provide opportunities for those people to get gainful and to get employment, so that they didn't come out and have to resort to where they were before. Those programs were stopped. We had people from the psychiatric hospital who would come out on a Thursday, 1 o'clock, sit down, and they're not going to get back to work in like the next month or 2, but it's a program letting them know that they have to go through interviewing skills, how to go to do work. They got to go work early and prepare them to go back into work. Call them, they had a mental challenge. Those programs used to happen at the Bank Hall, Verona House. Right there by Strathclyde. Right, I was a labor officer. They sent me to Warwick University to do employment for people of special interest.
It's like workforce development.
Yes, and we came back. Kenny Walters went to Canada, and I went to England, and we came back. We developed a whole series of programs. Some had been started before, but they sent us to get specialized training to come and get them going. And we even had a program of transitioning primary school children to secondary schools, so that like 3 months before the children do the 11 plus, we will go and explain to the kids that when you're at a primary school, you got a police teacher, mom, who teaching you everything. When you get a secondary school, you got
It's not
different
that.
teachers.
Oh
But we used to
yes,
do that.
but
We used to
you
do
know,
that.
but Dr. Aline, even with my grandchildren, nobody prepares children coming out of primary school for secondary school life, and it is a
But we used to,
totally different ball game.
yes, we used to do that at Verona House. We used to do that at Verona House. We would go to all the primary schools and meet with the kids and explain to them, you are not going to have your please, ma'am, no more. You're going
Yeah,
to have
yes,
five. Some going to be males, some going to be females. Oh, man. Yeah.
yes.
And you're not,
But
your friends are not going to be from your community, the schools, your school, colleagues not going to be from all over Barbados.
yes,
Me and Kenneth Walton used to do that. We did that for 3 years. Telling you. And I'm saying is, if those things were vital in the 1980s and 90s, they are more vital now.
yes, yes,
They're
absolutely. I
more
think
vital now
we would
because
all agree with
there's
you.
so many interferences with the kids, internet, all of those things impacting the children's receptive levels and all those things.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
we need those things. We need those things.
Recently, and I saw an a comment in the media about guns, and I smiled. They were talking about trying to get rid of the toy guns and all these kind of things. And
That was
you know,
the Institute have, yes. Yeah.
yeah, but Dr. Ali, I laughed, and I didn't laugh because I didn't think it was serious. You know why I laughed? If you look at the average child today, they don't spend no time even outside the house. They are on
Yeah,
a
yeah,
tablet or phone or computer playing dragons and this, or I can't remember
yeah.
all the games. And Maurice and Abraham, some of those games are promoting violence of
That's
extreme
very
levels.
violent. Very
There's
violent.
four.
Um,
Yes.
There's
you
four.
know the one with the cars where you could knock down people and gain points and all that kind of thing.
Grand Theft
Grand
Auto.
Theft Auto, yes, I think that was it. And then you have the ones with different ones running along, shooting at different people, almost like they're in a war zone and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I smiled because I said these people can't be serious. What year are they living in? That was my year, Maurice. Where I used to have wire earp and my 2.6 guns and a white hat, and I used to run around playing. I am Lone Ranger. Sorry, not wire earp, the Lone Ranger and Tonto. But those days are gone. Those days
No,
are gone.
no, because
Now,
there was no way you're gonna have access to gun in 1970. No way.
Right.
no, and I mean,
They
Yes.
still have access to them now, though.
They could
no,
take all the plastic guns off the
Yeah.
market and do all that, and that still won't change the violence.
there you go, there you go, and this is the thing about it, I am going to make my closing comments, and I'll give each of you all just a minute to make. Well, let me give you all a minute because I'm the host, so I should
Yes.
always
Yes, of
give way.
course.
So
Yeah.
let me give you all a minute each to just make your closing comments. Let me go first with you, Abraham, because you came on to the program first. So let me give you the first one, and let me follow it up with Maurice and then Dr. Ali.
If you have money and all big contracts come through you, meaning PM and otherwise, or persons that sit and hold the money, Barbados is going down a very, very dangerous slope as it relates to crime and youth violence. Find the money within the big contracts, as Dr. Allen, and please give me your name again. I know you told me
Maurice.
your name. And Maurice said, for the fundamental, not only rehabilitation, but instilling for the youth, and Barbados would not find itself like Trinidad and Jamaica. Failing to do so, and all the monies and millions are being borrowed to do otherwise, what we don't want will happen. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so very much, Maurice. I mean, this has been an education having you. I hope we can have you back on the program not too long
Absolutely.
from now. Abraham, I hope that you would be available. I'll be in touch with you because I have to plan the programs for next week Monday, next week Wednesday. But this is a pressing matter that I think we need to address. Go ahead, Maurice.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I promise you, this will not be the last because whenever you're ready, I'll be ready, right? Barbados, I'm coming. And I'm bringing reinforcements with me. I'm there. I have my wife who holds a doctorate in educational leadership, who is very intelligent. In fact, she holds 4 degrees, right? Double masters in education, a bachelor's in criminal justice from John Jay University, and a doctorate. And she is one of the most brilliant people I have ever met in my entire life.
You better bring her on the next program, or are you afraid that she might outshine you?
No, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Lovely.
For her to outshine me. That's the goal.
Lovely,
because when she shines her bright light, I shine mine. We shine it on Barbados.
Lovely.
That's the goal. The goal is to help Barbados because I've been there several times. That's my home away from home. I love that country. Love. And I'm on my way. I'm coming. We coming. We're on our way, and we're bringing every last piece of enforcement that we have, support, training, tools, staff, the whole works. I'm ready.
Well, I'll be in touch with you because, if we can get some of the persons on this program, because one of the things about the Marcy Week show that we try to do is educate, not just be critical and, analyze and that kind of, but try and educate and offer, we want to get to a point of offering solutions. And I think this would be critically important. Dr. Aline, your closing comments, sir? Just for tonight, I mean, not your closing comments, period. Just for tonight. You're muted.
Yeah, from 1999, I raised a hell of a noise about the level of indiscipline and the prevalence of violence in Barbadian communities. And I've been advocating some changes. I believe that it is not a government issue, it is not a police issue. It is a Barbadian problem. And we can only resolve it and get our society going forward if all of us identify the one little thing and the 2 little things that we all can do to change this direction. That is my belief. And I'm not going to renege from that belief that it's all of our problem. And we can only solve it if all of us play a part. That is my word.
Well, Dr. Aline, it's so true. Maurice, Abraham, we have a little verse in the scripture that talks about the little foxes that spoil the vines, the little things. And I think there's a Japanese proverb that says you remove a big mountain by first taking away small stones. And very often we are looking to try to do grandioso things. And in truth and in fact, as you say, Dr. Aline, if we could all put our resources together and sit in a room together, like how the Republicans are now grilling Mr. Trump's nominees, let's get in a room together. And let's look at the issue that we are having, and let's hear from the different ones. I, from a Christian minister's perspective, and not only that, from the perspective of my life. I am a human being first. I'm a Barbadian. I may be a Christian, but I'm a human individual, and that's what I am first. I'm human, and my thinking and so on is influenced by my faith. And I know what I have gone through, others who have gone through, people who have been returned into society, fought their way back through to success. All of these are things. I look at some of the young men on the street who, started out with nothing, but today they're running a lawnmower business, not lawnmower, what do you call those kind of businesses again now? Landscaping, with lawnmowers and weed whackers, and they come and make your property look so beautiful, and we don't credit them, you know, with any value, so to speak. And I think this is really important, especially for our youth. And I just want to say as we close that we need to pay some attention to the primary school initiatives. I believe, Dr. Aline, as you talked about, you know, we talked about entrepreneur, and I understand the difference between enterprise and entrepreneur now that you've expressed that aspect. But we need to probably start those things from the primary school level and not just be developing children who come out of school expecting to go to work for somebody, but understand that they can actually develop their own business and do their own business and pursue their own dreams and aspirations and be successful in terms of financially and otherwise at it as well. And you know, these are just some of my thoughts, you know, as I listen to all of you. And I really want to thank each one of you for your specific perspective to the whole matter of crime. And I would like to dedicate another night to this. I think it's a serious enough issue, Dr. Aline. I hope you will make yourself available again. Maurice, I trust that you will as well, and Abraham, and maybe.
Definitely will.
I was hoping to have a senator from Trinidad on to share their perspective as well. You know, they're in a state of emergency at the moment in Trinidad and Tobago. Some of the things that they're looking to do there and are doing there in terms of trying to address their situation as well. And I really appreciate, and I say this very sincerely, you know, I am on a learning curve. I always say that the only place nobody is learning anything is at Coral Ridge or Westbury Cemetery. As long as I am alive, I'm learning. I don't know everything, and I've often said in many a message, if I knew everything, I would be God and the world would be in trouble. So I'm very thankful I don't know everything and that I'm learning from different ones, and I appreciate the education you have all carried us through tonight. On behalf of the loyal opposition, I want to say thank you for dedicating your time to be with us tonight. I'll be in touch with all of you, and we'll look to see how we can regather again, because this has been a powerful night to my mind. I've seen one or two comments to that. As we try to probably in our next session, look at some solutions that we can practically implement in Barbados. And Dr. Aline, I'm sure you know that it would be, I would love to sit with you for a few minutes face to face and talk with you about some of those initiatives, because I did see a comment tonight where someone mentioned about what you were involved in, and I think it would be of great value for us. Okay, there's the comment there, Dr. Ali. Let me see it here. He mentioned, I just had it, you know, and it disappeared. Again, his monkey handling gun. So just let me see if I can find it. But he mentioned someone that you had done some courses with. Let me see here.
Walters. There's something about Walters.
Walters, yes.
He was the registrar at the university in the end. That is his last job.
Right. There it is. Let me see if I can get it there. Dr. Aline, I know, sure. Dr. Lee, I know or hear everything, but there was an excellent program project you and Mr. Walters had to help motivate the youth of this country. This is very, very good what you all did. So obviously your experience in this area, I'd love to have some conversations with you. So we'll connect and set something up. Abraham, thank you so much. Maurice, oh my goodness. Maurice, thank you. We'll be in touch. We are going to be in touch. You're more than welcome.
Thank you to Marcia. Thank you for everybody. Gentlemen, nice meeting you. I look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely.
Happen. Let's start it up.
All right.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, God bless. I'm going to see if I can find this video that I played a little earlier, and close off the show with it. And you know, let me just see if I can pull it up here. I'm sure you see if Dave was here, Dave would have had it pulled up ever since. Okay, here it goes. Here it comes, gentlemen.
Words of a mother.
All right, bye guys. We'll talk later.
out on the corner. She's calling on Jesus' name, asking why did they kill him. My son was a gentle soul. He never do nobody nothing. Then a man shout, woman. His son went on a banging in a stolen vehicle. While you feel the next team swing back, the boy killed 3 people. Speeding off at the scene he went on. A little girl get bounced down. Yet still she saying heads have to roll for the ones who take she's not told. Mama good, good son, no get gunned down. Hey. Mama good, good son, no get gunned down. I know she crying out for justice, for she son who was a killer. Justice. A little notorious gangster. Justice. This boy was killing people. They used to call him Dr. Evil. Justice. For the real headbanger. Justice. For the #1 shotter. Justice. They say when he ride, he never stick. They used to call him the Trinidad John Wick. Mama good, good son, no get gunned down. Hey. Mama good, good son, no get gunned down. Hey, as she holds her son lifeless body, crying out in pain. I hear a lady in the background shouting, woman, you ain't have no shame. Like the same boy we used to cuss you, treat you like a dog and hit you. Now you're here with tears in your eyes, crying for this ungrateful child. He was oppressing the community. He used to advantage everybody. He used to glad when mountain come. Why? He want to tax all people the money. He beat up the child mother, shoot behind the big brother. The way you're feeling, now you know how much other people he may feel. So mama good, good son, no get gunned down. Hey. Mama good, good son, no get gunned down. I know she crying out for justice, for the community terrorists. Justice. #1 extortionist. And if nobody didn't pay him no tax, he kidnapped the family and burned down their business. Justice. For somebody so evil. Justice. Oh, you said distress people. Justice. But all you seeing is the hole in the face, not the loaded Beretta anyways. And mama good, good son, mama good, good son, mama good, good son, no get gunned down. Hey. He had a mind full of bitterness, he had a heart full of hate. But now you crying out your liver string, like this boy was a saint. We do expect you to smile and be happy. After all, you see mother. But how much other mother sons your son bury? Now you're seeing ways karma. You never used to show no concern when they tell you the boy out of control. You even act like you never know. The last child mother is 14 years old. When everybody complaining, you say they envy and jealous him. You didn't want to talk to him since he's small. No, nobody don't want to hear you as you ball. Mama good, good son, no get gunned down. Hey, mama good, good son, no get gunned down. I know she crying out for justice to the people on the corner. Justice. All over social media. Justice. You see the man and them who kill your son, you wish the police could gun all of them down. Justice for a real pedophile. Justice. Who victimize people, little girl child. Justice. So those vets know you're trying to mourn, and everybody happy that the big pest gone. Mama good, good son, mama good, good son, mama good, good son, no get gunned down. My son was a good boy, the words of a mother.
That's tough. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's a new song I heard just recently. Someone sent to me, but one of the things that leapt out at me was the psychological, the bitterness And these kinds of things that seem so contributory, so very important. Gentlemen, thank you so very much. Loyal opposition, great to have all of you with us again tonight. Thank you for your patience, your contribution, your comments. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to you joining us again Friday evening. The young people will be engaged and they will be handling the entire show on Friday evening. And then that's at 7 o'clock. And then on Sunday, the Honorable Maxine McLean and Glyde Murray, former Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, and Miss Maxine McLean, who was Minister of Foreign Affairs, I believe it was, in one of the previous administrations, will be doing Sunday night. So, gentlemen, until we are gathered again together for another one of these nights, I really, really want to engage it again. Thank you so very much for being here this evening. God bless all of you guys. Loyal opposition. Have a great, great night. God bless you, Abraham.
All right.
All the best. All
It's
done.
good.
Done, Freddie.
Bye-bye.